I'd like to first of all declare we do have a quorum tonight. We do have a new member is not present. Second item is to review the minutes of the previous meeting. Any changes, modifications? Motion?
Move to be approved.
Second.
Chris seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Before we get to the agenda,
I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda as presented and move item number H, which is the,
I?
I'm sorry, I, which is the text amendment concerning the poultry farms, which I think a lot of people may be here for. We're going to move it up to B, which would be the second presentation tonight.
did I get a second?
Second.
Octavio seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. It is moved up. Before we get to this, we do have a large number of requests tonight, including the amendment. That's 15, which is probably twice, well, basically is 2 months' worth. Before we get to that, Mr. Ethan Calhoun from the Northwest Georgia Regional Office will review procedures and the processes and requirements of those who would like to speak out against any of these items. Ethan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, the meeting for tonight will follow our set agenda. You can see that on the screen. You'll find copies of that also out front. There should be plenty. We also have some other documents out front, including our procedures and standards. If you'd like to read in great detail about the procedures and standards of our zoning process and our public hearing process, we have that document available as well. But in short, tonight's meeting serves the purpose of holding a public hearing. The public hearing's purpose is to hear comments in favor of and in opposition of the items on the agenda. And every single item on the agenda will follow the same process, the same procedure. First, the chairman will introduce the item. I will come forward and give a brief presentation from staff. Once my comments have been heard, the chairman will ask for the petitioner, that's the individual who's here tonight representing that rezoning, who's requested to rezone their property. They'll come forward to the podium, answer any questions that may come up, and make any additional statements. Once the petitioner's comments have been heard, the chairman will ask if anyone else other than the petitioner would like to come forward and speak in support of the agenda item. If, when all comments in favor of or in support of that item have been heard, the chairman will then ask for anyone who's here tonight to speak in opposition or against that item to come forward to the podium and address any of the issues that they have with that item on the agenda. Once the opposition remarks have been heard, the chairman will give an opportunity to the petitioner to come forward again and address any of those issues or concerns that were raised in the opposition's remarks as a rebuttal. If no new evidence is presented in the petitioner's rebuttal, the chairman will close that public hearing, and after that, there will be no further public comment on that particular agenda item. They'll move to the next item on the agenda. That same procedure will follow. Comments for and comments against with the rebuttal. Once the chairman has moved all the way through the regular meeting and all the public hearings have been conducted, we'll move into the regular meeting of the Planning Commission. At that point, the Planning Commission will make recommendations. They'll deliberate on each item and make a recommendation that will be sent forward to the Board of Commissioners and to the City Council for Varnell and for the City of Dalton for them to make final decisions at their next regular meeting. Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Ethan.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, I made one thing. If you're here tonight to speak in opposition, state law requires us to have you fill out an opposition form. And that's a disclosure of campaign contributions. If you have or have not made any, you disclose that on that form. They are out front. There are pens out there. If you intend to speak in opposition tonight, make sure you pick up one of those forms, sign it, note the item on the agenda you're speaking in opposition of, and please print your name very clearly so that when we are typing this up for the record, for it to move forward, we want to make sure we get your name and information correct to be a part of the record for your comments to be heard. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The first item is to hear from Valerie Silver. Are you here? Present? Okay. Nope, just wait. I just want to check, make sure you're here. to rezone from low-density family residential R2 to rural residential R5, tract of land of 1.59 acres on Lafayette Road. Ethan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First rezoning request here, as you pointed out, is rezoning from R2 to R5, small 1.59 acre tract of land, and currently the rezoning is being requested for the petitioner to be able to develop the subject property with a single-family dwelling less than the 1,200 square feet required in the R2 zone district. Very simple area here. We see mostly general agriculture in this kind of pocket of low-density R2 and rural residential R5, and some transitional residential. And we can see the R5 zone district adjacent to the property. So the zone district exists in the area, and here we see the aerial photograph with the development, similar to what we see throughout this area. So R5 would not be out of place from a built environment standpoint or an existing zoning district standpoint. And the petitioner's request was made again in order to be able to build a smaller dwelling than the minimum 1,200 square feet of heated floor space that's required in R2. So this is a fairly straightforward request with the plan for this area, future development plan to be rural residential, which of course in this case would be would fit with the rural residential zone district. So based on all those factors, staff have no opposition and recommend approval. Be happy to answer any questions.
No questions. Thank you. Ms. Silva? Do you have any comments, additions?
No, not really. He said it well. I want to build a small house next to my parents whose land is, it's my mother's lot. The land is zoned R5 already. No, wait. Yes, her land is zoned R5, the land that the house is on. And the small lot, which my mother also owns, I'm asking that to be rezoned so that I can build myself a house that's smaller than 1,200 square feet. So I can stay within my budget.
I say, why less than 1,200? Is that just, that's what you?
Cost. I
Cost.
just want a
Okay.
small house.
Okay,
I'm downsizing, and I would like to.
all right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else would like to speak in favor?
One question, please.
Oh, sorry.
One house on that one lot?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. They just want to know if there's the one house on the whole lot. Okay, thank you. Anybody like to speak in opposition? That said, very well. We will move on to the next item, which is the amendment. Where'd it go? And this next item is the amendment to the Unified Zoning Ordinance. Where'd I go? I'd like to read something up front since there are so many of you here today. I understand that many of you are here this evening due to concerns about smells and other issues related to commercial poultry operations, particularly in the northern part of the county. However, the only matter before us tonight regarding chicken houses is a proposed ordinance amendment. The amendment would increase the setbacks from 25 to 200 feet and limit the total number of chicken houses to 8 per parcel with a minimum of 40 acres. We welcome your comments on the proposed ordinance changes. However, neither the Planning Commission nor the Board of Commissioners has the authority over smells or similar complaints. Any comments on these matters will be ruled out of order. For concerns related to these issues, please direct your inquiries to the Georgia Department of Agriculture or the Environmental Protection Division. Thank you. Ethan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you stated, the Unified Zoning Ordinance and the ordinance proposed to amend the UZO would be related specifically to commercial poultry farming. And currently, the setbacks are very minimal, and this would increase those significantly from where they stand currently to 200 feet setback from any property line on any property for commercial poultry production. Also, this ordinance would require that each any future poultry housing structure be built on a minimum of 10 acres of contiguous land. Currently, the 5-acre minimum for the general agriculture zone district would permit such uses. Granted, it would likely take a larger property to accommodate those houses, but this would set that threshold at a minimum of 10 contiguous acres. For any additional house to be constructed, there would need to be an additional 5 acres per unit with a maximum of 8 units, 8 individual poultry houses on any approved lot or parcel. And any existing poultry, commercial poultry operations would be permitted to continue through the non-conforming or grandfather status within the zoning ordinance in Article 10. And if those were to be destroyed through fire or any act outside the control of the owner, they could be replaced based on the provisions of that code section in the Unified Zoning Ordinance. It is worth pointing out also that this is for commercial poultry operations, so small backyard chickens and that sort of thing wouldn't be affected by this particular ordinance. Be happy to answer any questions.
So if somebody has a poultry farm today, and let's just say that, I don't know, maybe the company that they grow for changes requirements as far as the square footage of the poultry house itself, and they have to make modifications and to stay in, you know, the goodwill, I guess, of the people they grow for, is that allowed? Can that
Based-
footprint increase if market conditions warrant them to have to change?
Based on our current non-conforming status, they could make improvements, technological improvements, repairs to the buildings. However, expansion of an existing non-conforming use would not be permitted, as I understand the current non-conforming status. So it would have to stay on the same footprint.
So the purpose of this really is not to permit any chicken houses to be built for commercial, because the restrictions that they have here are almost impossible for anybody in the chicken business to build under those requirements.
They were requirements that consulted other outside experts and looking at some other counties, and based on the current lack of regulation, this would be a significant increase from what is currently allowed. Currently, I believe, is 25 feet setbacks, which would be, you know, in certain areas, pretty devastating to a neighboring property if it were residential, particularly small lot residential. That's a very minimal setback, so it does at least increase that setback to the 200 feet, which is a much more palatable distance than, say, 25 or 50 feet in a shorter setback. And there are a number of other counties, like Murray County, Gordon County, throughout our region that have adopted ordinances similar to this that address those issues. And usually they address setbacks,
They require the 200 feet?
usually at least around 200 feet.
Is there any discussion about buffers?
Currently, we don't have any language in regard to an actual buffer.
So pretty much the existing ones won't have any competition, really.
In terms of additional, new development of poultry houses, I certainly think that there's probably quite a number of properties, larger properties, that would be able to easily meet those requirements.
Gentlemen? All right, thank you, Ethan. I guess we need to start with in favor. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak in favor of how the ordinance is being amended?
Good evening. My name is Heath Ooten. I'm a poultry farmer here in Whitfield County. I'm also a board member with Whitfield County Farm Bureau. Myself, and I think most of our board is here tonight, we are aware of everybody's concerns, and we get it. I mean, we understand it. And, you know, I feel like this is a fair compromise. It could have been, you know, a lot more restrictive than it is, and the nature of our county is it's growing, and there's gonna be more pressure on this, you know, as time goes on. And people like to eat, and it's gotta come from somewhere, and as long as we're in compliance with state law, county zoning, and I don't, personally don't know of a chicken farmer who's not trying to be a good neighbor. Now, whether that always works out or not, you know, we would be causing ourselves problems to, you know, intentionally try to provoke anybody or do things that people don't like, but unfortunately, it is the nature of the business. It's smelly and it's unfortunate, but a 200-foot setback is a vast difference from what it is currently, and limiting down to 8 on a parcel, I know people have gotten this concept that that's a huge farm. Anymore, it's not. In the broiler side of things, if you have 8 houses, you're on the threshold of whether it's your full-time job or not. I'm not saying there's not. Personally, I don't know anybody with less than 8 that doesn't have another job. Full-time broiler farmers, 12 houses aren't uncommon anymore. I personally have breeder houses, I have hen houses, so 4 is a big farm for us. But I get it. We all do. We all understand everybody's, you know, the folks that are here tonight upset and wanting, you know, change, and I feel like we've got a pretty good compromise with this.
Question.
Yep.
You'd probably be the best one to ask. So I know that some of the newer chicken farms are larger.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned the number of houses, but that also applies to the footprint of the houses, right? I've seen some newer ones that are really large. The one house is really large.
As I understand it right now, the going size is about 54 feet wide by 600 feet long. Now, there's bigger, smaller, but that's kind of the average on broiler houses. Hen houses are still 40 feet wide. They've gotten a little longer and a little shorter over the years, but they don't change that much. But the broiler houses, 54 by 600 is probably a common size right now.
So Ethan, this ordinance does not address square footage of individual houses, just the number of houses on a parcel. That's correct. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak in favor? All right. Anybody who'd like to speak in opposition? Sir?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name's Mike Key. I live in the Leisure Lake community up in North Whitfield County. I want to make clear that the people I've talked to in our community are not opposed to the chicken farmers. That's not the opposition. The problems that we have are there's just a great lack of oversight on the whole process. May I show you some photos?
Sure.
Bring them up.
Oh, thank you. And I have a couple of reports here on site inspections from Georgia EPD that you may want to look at. I apologize, I ran out of ink after a couple of copies. But we have a situation where, and we're not talking about the odor or anything else, even though that is prevalent. We have a problem with silt water runoff, and the people we're dealing with are the Keith Valley houses up there, and it's almost a mile away from our watershed lake. We have about a 25-acre lake. And what's occurring is with any significant rainfall, we're sealed it in. And then as a result of that, we have all type of vegetative issues. We have blue-green algae, all types of things that we're having to mediate, and it costs thousands of dollars to do that. And, you know, you can't let your dogs in the water. You can't, you know, it's some of the blue-green algae stuff is toxic. So it's a result. It's never been there before. I mean, I can go back about 40 years on the property with folks that I've talked to, and we've never experienced these problems. We've been there about 28 years, up until these issues come up. Now, if you look at these photos, you'll see one, that's, you can see the siltwater runoff, running in, and it's been tracked back to these poultry houses by both the county soil erosion experts and the EPD, or Georgia EPD. And we know where it's coming from. And they're under, they go up and put them under order, and I think that the EPD people, are doing the best they can. The problem is, this is probably such a widespread issue for them that there's no local oversight. And I understand there's state statutes and some other things that protects the farmers. And I think that a big portion of this process is setting both the farmer up for failure and the community up for failure. And there needs to be more. There needs to be more. I'll give you an example. In December, we took and went to the county commissioners and we presented a letter. And we asked questions, or we told them our problem, and then we hear nothing. Last week, once I found out there was an ordinance, I took and contacted the chairman, and we had a long conversation. And I think that they want to be helpful, but I think that the problem is totally deflected. It's let somebody else deal with it, the state deal with it. And we need to take and look at what we're doing locally to take and have some oversight on this issue. Because if we don't, we're gonna end up with lots and lots of problems in Whitfield County because of this. We are, as a community, we're concerned that we were not involved in any of the decision-making process on this. No one give us a call, nobody done anything. And it is my understanding in talking with the subject matter experts here at Whitfield County that there was some conversation between the commission and the poultry industry. And quite frankly, the victims were left out. So what I'm gonna recommend is what we want. We would like to see a 90-day moratorium placed on new permits until the commission, subject matter experts, the poultry people, and the victims can get together and come to a reasonable compromise on where we're gonna go with this thing. I've looked at, and there's a lot of county ordinances, I've looked at them as well, and they're different. And, the main concern should not be, are we gonna get sued by the poultry industry? The main concern should be, what's it gonna take to maintain the quality of life for the people in Whitfield County who's dealing with the problems from these houses? And I'll say again, I know people in the poultry business. I've been to their houses. Some of them do an excellent job. They keep it clean. I don't see any runoff, it's done right. But there are actors that will not do that. And we're dealing with one right here.
Okay, can I summarize then? First of all, your biggest problem is runoff, and the second part is being part of the process?
Yes, that is correct. Thank you.
All right.
That is correct. The being part of the process and the lack of oversight on this. I think that everybody that I've talked to with Whitfield County and the subject matter experts, I think that they want to be part of the solution, but I think they feel like their hands are tied because of ordinances and state law and other things. And quite frankly, if I was you, if I was in your position, I'd be on the phone to Atlanta, and I'd be drilling down into it and see if we could come up with a better plan. That's what I would ask from you and the commissioners.
I don't think we have the authority, but the commissioners will.
Yeah, right. But we would appreciate any help we can get on this issue. And, there's lots of other complaints and everything, and, I can't address some of those, but I know for certain we have a problem here. And it's kind of like putting the genie back in the bottle after you get the cork out. It's difficult. And it's difficult for the EPD. I mean, they're working, those agents that are working for them, they take and work 9, 10 counties. And I can just imagine what their workload's like and what their problem list is like. And quite frankly, I don't know that they can cover it all. I think they're greatly understaffed.
All right,
All right?
very good. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you for letting us speak.
All right, is there anybody else who'd like to speak? And the gentleman stands up.
A lot of people in here already know me, but I'm William Morgan, and I own property on Mount Pleasant Road. And Mike hit it on the nail head. We are not against the chicken farmer by no means of the imagination, only the way he maintains it. I mean, we're talking about 8 houses per however many acres, 20 or 25 acres. But what if they own 300 or 400 acres, 800 acres, and they want to subdivide to their kids? There's nothing that I've heard so far about it, about subdividing your property and putting another 8, and then another 8, and then another 8 just because you gave it to your kids.
All right, let's keep it down.
Sorry. But that's another issue that's got to be addressed. The other thing is, where does the poultry farm fall? Does it fall under general agricultural? Is that where it falls, Nathan?
Yes.
Why are we allowing commercial businesses to run under a general agricultural? That's your mom and pop that's got 2 or 3, 4 houses. Eighth, you got them. I mean, you know, and it's all good. And I'm proud for you. But you should have another classification on people that are wanting to build bigger, lot more of houses under commercial agricultural. There needs to be another area for the zoning board and everybody to look at. Number one, as far as I know, there's not been any impact studies done on what's going on the north end of this county. Not one. I mean, they call the EPA, the EPD, and they do what they can. That's all fine and well. But where's the county's responsibility to the citizens of this county by not having an impact study done? Most of the water that flows through this county comes from the north end where they're doing all the building. Every bit of it. Coahulla Creek, the Conasauga, Sugar Creek, and not to mention all your springs and things that are going through there that we don't know what it's affecting. I looked on the internet the other day and they say, well, now they've determined that the dust in some is causing health issues and some other problems that are now starting to come to light because now we're getting more of them. We're getting more houses on the property than what we feel it can hold. And then that's where the problems arise. So I'm just asking, as a voter, number one, a resident of this county, number two, and friends with a whole lot of people in this room. I mean, I can sit here and look around, and these are my neighbors. I mean, you folks may not know them, may not care. I don't know, but I do. Because I have to face every single one of these folks when I go home. And when I turn off on Mount Pleasant, you better have you a clothespin in your car when you turn onto the road. And I don't care what time of day it is. The stench will take your breath. It's absolutely absurd. And there's nobody regulating it because there was no impact done to see what they're going to do and how they're going to dispose of this stuff. It's just not there. So my request to this board and to the commissioners is like Mike. Put the 90-day moratorium on it. Let's just slow it down. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's get with everybody on board and see if we can come up with a reasonable explanation of all this and how we can do it. It's not we're ganging up on anybody. We just want what's right for us that live here in this county. That's all we're asking for. We're a citizen here, and we deserve this. The chicken's not voting for anybody in this room. These people, they all vote. And I think their voice needs to be heard, and it needs to be upheld by this commission and by this board to do what's right for these citizens. And I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, I'm going to take one more. And, sir, have you filled out the paperwork?
No,
Ethan?
I'll fill it out. I'll get moved if it's okay. This is just gonna be short and sweet.
Very good.
To let these people know what they're up against. I'm having a water issue with Whitfield County, and the county administrator told me that state law didn't apply to Whitfield County, that Whitfield County had their own laws. And he also told me there's no stormwater runoff, there's no Whitfield County runoff. The only runoff is God's water.
Okay. Thanks, sir. All right. You want it on the record?
For the record, none of that is true.
Okay. Thank you, Ethan. Did you get that? Statement, none of that's true. None of that's true.
Bob stated it for the record, none of that was.
Did you turn mine in, Bill?
I did.
Gentlemen, I'm Farrell Cooksey, live in Beaverdale all my life, and I'm the butthole that started this. I just
Somebody's
simply-
gotta do it.
These guys have covered most of it.
Yeah, good.
I want to make a couple comments, though, and I'm an old man, so if I hurt your feelings, throw a rock at me or something. First off, I want to know from you guys, how is the waste handled in these chicken houses? Some of you guys own them. How's the waste handled?
Mine in a building, it stays in a building until we take it and spread it on fields.
You spread it on the fields, your fields.
My fields from other people's fields.
Okay, once a year, or two or
Yeah,
three
'cause
times a year?
I only clean out once a year, so.
Do you? Okay, so it's pretty well handled. All of them that way?
Most
people- everybody
most people.
Can you get to the mic? We can't get you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was simply asking.
I mean, you can talk, yeah, but let us know.
Okay. What I was trying to get a handle on was what exactly is in this waste. We've been approving building chicken houses without the faintest idea the after effects to the public. We go ahead and approve it, because that's not our job. Our job is not to go out and see if there's pollution. Our job is to approve chicken houses. So when I started this, I want to make that comment. When I started this, I went around to all my neighbors that I could. I worked probably 2 weeks, did a lot of walking, a lot of driving. I got 242 signatures on the petition I brought down here. I did not get anybody to tell me no. So that tells me if we take this county-wide, 98, 99% of the county will sign it. And that brings me back to the question, who are y'all working for? Who are you working for? When 98% want something changed, who are you working for? I want you to look in the mirror, and I want you to figure that out to yourself. But I think if you're working for the public, we'll get some rules put in place. We need them. It's getting out of hand.
That's what this is.
On the, as far as the litter management plan.
Right.
There is a nutrient management plan USDA requires. It's done on every new farm. You have to get it done.
Who's the teeth of it if they don't do it?
That'd be-
Who enforces it?
That would be the state.
And the state ever come out and check?
They come by and inspect the farms, yes,
Do regular?
yearly.
Okay. That's the questions I had, guys, and I appreciate your time.
All right, thanks, sir.
All right, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Richard Holland. I live on the south end of the county, and we've got the chicken problem too. If you turn off of Tilton Road down Old Dixie, we're inundated with chicken houses. I mean, they're everywhere, and it's like this company bought like 100 acres of land. Well, each one of these farms has got different names listed in front of them. So what's preventing that from them saying, okay, this company's gonna run this amount, this is gonna run this amount, and this is gonna run this amount? Because if you go down George Brock Road, you go down Shipman Hill Road, which is a narrow family driveway, they've got chicken trucks bringing in food, the chickens. The buses have to get in the ditches because the roads are so narrow. They've got 3 of them within 100 feet of my aunt's house. My brother's house that he inherited from my parents we can't even sit out in the yard because the chicken's going on down through there. And they building more and more and more. They're on George Brock Road building expansion like crazy. And I know this is after the fact of after they've already got their part in the door now. Now they got these 100 acres of land down there. What's going to stop them from continuing to building more and more? Because right across the landfill, they've got that whole big strip they're fixing to start building in there. So all of that strip from Tilton to down 41 is going to be nothing but chicken alley down through there because there's chicken houses everywhere. There was nothing done previously. I was here before, and I brought it to attention. I said, oh, yeah, they start out with 8, that goes 16, that goes 32, that goes 64. I was here when the first amendments came up about, registering that down there and getting all that changed over. I told everybody what would happen. Yeah, we're going to start out with 8. Yeah, then they just grow and grow and grow. And now we've got this company out of Marietta. Somebody from Korea is the name it's listed under, and they all of a sudden these farms have got different names. If you look at all of them, on this side of Dixie Road's got one name, this has got one, Shilton Hill's got one, that's got one. So are they taking this and like everybody talked about, just giving it to different family members to run different parts so they can stay in, ordinance with this going on? And like I say, it's not just on the north end of the county, we're getting it on the south end, and I invite anybody to come down there. And I know you said don't say nothing about the smell, but since 1950, we've had Easter at my granny's and Papa's house. Guess what? We can't even sit out in the yard for chicken shit. And I mean, it's crazy. We should not have this problem going on. I mean, yeah, it's okay for everybody because they don't live down there. We've not had representation on our end of the county for over 40 years. Our commissioner lives up in West Side. They don't live down there and see everything that's happening to us on the south end. It just gets dumped on us all the time. They just keep dumping more and more. So we need to figure out what we're going to do about these companies down there and see if they're going to keep building and see how many more they plan on putting down that strip of Old Dixie.
All right, thank you, sir.
Can I say something?
Just to make sure this is just from my point of view, just to make sure I understand. Now, I live out in the north end of the county, across the road, I live off Good Hope Road, across the road from me is Chicken House. Okay, I've lived out there my whole life, or in the county. So this amendment, and Ethan, you step in if I misspeak, it strengthens what the current zoning ordinances are on chicken houses. And what all of these people have expressed is that it's not going far enough. That's right? And so it's kind of, we've got an ordinance that's a little tighter that's presented, but they don't think it's gone far enough to address the concerns that they've all mentioned. So I just want to make sure we, it's kind of not the typical, usually when people are in opposition, it's opposition specifically to what's presented, which is not, this is a little different than that because you're not just in opposition to what's presented, but you're wanting a whole nother level of, inquiry and study done to make it even more restrictive. That's what I'm hearing, right? Yes. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah, okay. All right, so you want to adjust the ordinance, tighten it even more is what you're saying? Okay.
Well, normally when, people speak in opposition, it's to the ordinance that's presented, and this is different because it's several degrees beyond that. The issues that you've all brought up are not addressed. Okay. I just want to make sure, this is a little different than the way it normally goes. I just want to make sure everybody kind of is on the same page. Well, is that three people talking?
Just 30 seconds.
It's fine.
Make it short.
I think what you'll find, if the general ideal here is that when these people start coming with these houses, they're from all over the place. I mean, they're, you've got international, out of state, you got all these people coming here, and they're coming here because of our weakness. They're looking at our ordinances and they're trying to figure out where they can go and make the most money and get there. And then once they get there, in our particular case, they sold the place. They sold it. They offloaded it. Once they figured out they had a problem, and they do have a problem, we've got a problem, they offloaded it. And that's probably what you'll see with all these different names and everything. There's a lot of change. And I didn't want to.
No, so Ethan, when we have this discussion later, and just hypothetically, if we recommended to the commissioners to deny the request for the rezoning ordinance. It's just gonna go back to the way it's been, and doesn't really address any of the issues that they brought forth. That's something that they're gonna have to take up with their commissioners with some future something, correct?
We'll have to start over. The planning commission recommended not to approve the text amendment, then it would be written in a recommendation that would be sent to the board of commissioners, in which case they would vote on it for final decision. So they could choose to either take the recommendation or to approve it as it is.
But either way, it doesn't really address all of the concerns. It's kind of two different things. I mean, I get it, but, so, yeah, they need to initiate another conversation about beyond the scope of this.
Or table it until another ordinance can be crafted.
Sure.
Well, that's basically what we would be doing if we denied it. It would be going back to the drafters, which would be the commissioners.
Is there a timeline on, I mean, if we deny this one and the commissioners hear what the needs are? I mean, is there a timeline if you have to wait?
I think the strategy here would be to recommend tabling with the recommendation for additional research to address those issues, at which point that would mean during the next month's meeting, because it's a table item rather than a denial, could be brought up at the next planning commission meeting as, could be, changes could be made between then and now to increase the ordinance, to have additional meetings and research. And that could come back within a month, or it could be tabled for an additional period.
Was there anything that drove this, the reason for the amendment? Was there an expiration or something like that? What was the driving factor for this amendment?
Who created it?
Public opposition raised through the Board of Commissioners, prompting a petition regulation, given the fact that the current ordinance has very little, almost no stipulations or regulations for commercial poultry production and general agriculture.
Got it.
So this period of review, is there anything at risk during that period? Since the current one was going to be the 25-foot setback.
Until this ordinance is adopted hypothetically adopted by the Board of Commissioners, then the current ordinance as it is today would continue with, in the absence of a moratorium. The moratorium is the only thing that would halt additional permits. But, and that could be part of a recommendation.
The moratorium could be?
Be a table of the current ordinance and a recommendation for moratorium and additional research.
Okay.
Mr. Morgan?
Chris, you brought up a good point about looking further into it. But we've got chicken farmers here, and we've got citizens that could be working together with them to come up with some kind of solution. And to our commissioners, I mean, in this room, there's probably been more research done on the chicken and poultry industry than has ever been done on the face of this county. I'm just telling you, everybody's been on Google, they pulled up maps, they pulled up who owns them, they pulled up where, you know, who's building. I mean, they've done their research. What is the problem about having another panel made up of a few of us anyway, and trying to come up with some decision to present to you folks? I mean, we don't have a vote, but we sure can make a recommendation that might benefit us all.
We can add that recommendation to our opinion that we give to the commissioners. Now, we're going to hold off on the negatives and give you a chance to rebut.
I think everybody in the room has a whole lot of misconceptions about things. I know your personal experiences and that sort of thing, but I've heard it more than once in here tonight about corporations. The South End thing, I don't know where that gentleman's at. From my understanding of that, you have a problem that we have in the rest of the county, that we have developers. There's people coming in and buying a big chunk of land and building 6 farms and selling them off like a subdivision. That's a totally separate issue than what we're talking about here. If y'all want to, address that, that's fine. But a lot of them comments and all that, I've lived in Whitfield County with the exception of a few months my entire life. So I'm not a them. I've lived here and this is what I do for a living. I don't do anything else. I farm. And I get it. And I have no opposition to, you know, trying to hash something out. But everybody here has to remember the same thing, that people who are wanting to use their land in a manner that's appropriate for what it's zoned for already, they have a say-so in this too. And it's not just, everybody needs to get along, but it's not any one person in here gets to have it completely their way, you know what I mean? And I will say, in terms of the moratorium, if you do that, which personally I think is a bad idea, but if you do, please word it to where people who aren't already under contract or in some process of building don't get hung up by this, because they have millions of dollars tied up in this. And if tomorrow,
I got millions too, my whole life.
All right. You're out of order, sir.
I don't know where you
Hey.
live and I
Worried
don't know.
about what they got invested. We've been here our whole life, man.
Hey,
You're worried about people. That's what's wrong.
And they can
sir,
prob-
don't,
They can probably tell you more information about this than I did, but it's on the county seal right there.
I know, he didn't-
The last time I checked, agriculture was still the third largest industry in this county.
Yep.
And somebody made the comment about why they're coming here. They're coming here because North Georgia has the biggest poultry industry in the country.
Because we got
not
no
just-
rules.
all right.
Everybody else is stopped.
Mr. Orton, Mr. Orton. Heath? All right, stop the back and forth.
And,
Heath,
I'm sorry.
all right. I'm gonna
I was
cut
just
this
gonna
off.
answer his question.
I know, but they're all throwing questions back and forth. We can't do that.
Okay, but please tread lightly on that, especially in terms of a moratorium, because there's people who have a whole lot of money hanging out there and they need to be considered in this too.
Everybody will be considered.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna cut this off. I think we got a fair gist of what's going on here. But we're gonna close this and move on to the next issue.
Anything new?
If you got something new, we'll leave it open. If you got something very specifically new and short and sweet, bring it on up. But this is the last one.
She's got just as much money on the line as they do.
I bought a farm that's having, the 64 chicken houses built on it, on Mount Pleasant Road. So, yeah, I have millions involved in it, all my retirement, so that I can live in the country and give it to my grandson. And when when my grandson saw the road go through right next to our property, he said, I don't want that land, it's gonna have a chicken house on it. I think we're opposed to chicken houses, and I'm gonna tell you why we're opposed to chicken houses. Mr. Gentleman Farmer, the chicken houses were built by farmers to utilize their land so they could make more money, but that's not why they're being built now. They're being built strictly for the bottom line money. They don't live on the land. They live in Korea, they live in Vietnam, they don't care. They don't care if it smells. Statistically, 11% increase in CAP, which is community-acquired pneumonia, if you live near a chicken house. Now, that's not hearsay. It's proven evidence, 11% increase. So, yeah, forget the smell. It's hard to, but forget the smell. You're gonna be unhealthier there. I guess that's why my 11-year-old grandson, he's smarter than maybe most of us in this room. He don't wanna live next to chickens. He told me he didn't wanna live next to chickens. Statistically proven, up to 32% of the value of your home and property depreciates if you live near a chicken house. Now, that's a lot of money to us. I don't care if you're talking in millions or 100,000. That's a lot of money, 32% to lose to somebody that lives outside the United States. And I don't think it's right. I don't think it's right at all that you don't listen to us, because we have a problem up there. You say don't talk about the odor. Well, I won't talk about the odor, but it's there. You haven't said anything in this ordinance about subdivision. That 800 acres that's next to my property, 200 acres of it has been sold off. And they told my son-in-law, who talked the last meeting, that the other 300-acre plats were gonna close within the week because they have a hunting club there. Well, it hadn't closed yet. And if this ordinance goes through and you can put 8 chicken houses on 40 acres, how much can they divide that up and put? 64 isn't gonna be our problem. They could take that 600 acres and divide it into 6 100-acre properties and put another 48 houses on it. We've got to stop the number of houses in one area, and it's not gonna be 11%
Yes, ma'am.
CAP, it's gonna be more.
We're going to make those recommendations
Now,
to the county commissioners. We will make those recommendations.
as far as the moratorium, they're cutting trees right, they closed on, you say 35 acres, I believe it's more like 120 acres. They closed a week ago and they're already cutting trees down and putting a road in. Getting ready to gravel it and put it in. We can't wait. This committee, and I don't know exactly the details on it, December 9th meeting in 2023, you tabled chicken houses. I don't know what that was about, but it was tabled. You're talking about it again. You bring up special use permits. You talk about it, but then you stop it.
Well,
And
what
your
we're
new
trying to
ad-
do is talk about a moratorium on any new development.
Well-
That will be our recommendation, or when we
It
discuss
needs
it.
to happen, and we need that special
All right.
use so that we can put eyes on new developments and see how the old developments are doing.
Very good. Thank you.
very much.
Thank you. All right, we are going to close it. We're going to close the public portion of, on this issue. For those of you who are here just to hear that, if you'd like, you can stick around and listen in later, but you won't be able to participate, or you can leave now. There are people outside that are trying to get in. So if you could take a minute. It's gonna be like after church right now. Yeah.
And this is, so, I'll turn this down, all it does is look at the original, and then
Yeah.
what's brewing is they gotta
Yeah. This is what we get to do. Get it back over that. If y'all are leaving now, please step outside. We have 13 more requests, please. All right. Core Scientific.
No, he can take it.
You can take it.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
All right, please. If y'all are leaving, we've got to continue the meeting. The next item on the agenda is to hear from Core Scientific, a request to rezone from GA to R5, or GA and R5 to M2, 173 acres located on Old Tilton Road. Ethan, Core Scientific, are you here? Oh, right there? Okay. Very good. Ethan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you stated, the rezoning would be from general agriculture to the heavy manufacturing M2 zone district for 173 acres. And the reasoning for this request is in order for the development of a data center. And when we look at the area in terms of zoning, we can see on the zoning map, large M2 district just to the northwest. And we can see the subject property is currently right-of-way already in existence for Enterprise Drive that would be adjacent to the subject property. And while Enterprise Drive's not completed to the subject property, that east to west section would need to be completed. It does have existing right-of-way access for access along Enterprise Drive. We see this area is in a kind of convergence between the heavy manufacturing, rural residential, and GA. But we can see there essentially There's only one strip of land between the subject property and the existing heavy manufacturing zone district. That strip of land is zoned general agriculture, but in fact is transmission lines for Georgia Power. You can see it runs sort of diagonal along the northwest boundary of the subject property. So what we see is an area of convergence, and when we look at the zoning map, you can see here the current makeup of the subject property and the current development around the subject property. Here we can see the future development map showing the area to be both within the agricultural reserve and the rural residential zone, or the rural residential character area. And while those areas don't recommend industrial development, what we do see just to the north and to the northwest, we see the industrial district on the comprehensive plan's future development map. Based on the future development process, when you're talking about areas that are developing and areas of convergence between one large district and another, where there's considerable amount of undeveloped land, these areas are a little more difficult to plan for every 5 years. And so when we see issues like this, where they are adjacent to 2 or 3 zone districts applying to attractive land, in this case, when we look at the existing development, the large M2 zone district, the access potential for Enterprise Drive, and the existing makeup of the subject property, we don't see a direct conflict with the comprehensive plan, but again, we would need to look at the industrial character area to the northwest as the dominant land use at that location. Here we have a site plan of the subject property, same orientation as the other maps, north is up, and you can see there where they've made an account for a secondary access point along Enterprise Drive on that northwest portion of the property. They also have a secondary, smaller drive access along Old Tilton Road. There you can see on the east side of the property. And you can see that the development where the structures would be planned, the infrastructure would be planned, would be primarily to the north and northeast of the property. And so the areas that were planned for the rural agricultural reserve, which is the area to sort of preserve land, would be more toward the southern portion of the property. And the petitioner may be able to answer to more detail, but I believe there's some environmental reasons as to why their layout for this property is as it is. There would also be the establishment of 2 stations, power stations, the transformer stations to the north side of the subject property. You can see those there in order to satisfy the needs of power. Dalton Utilities confirmed there was no concern with utility capacity, water, sewer, electricity, or any other utilities that this petitioner would need in order to develop the site as they are proposing. So we don't identify any issues to public infrastructure. One recommendation that we would recommend would be to ensure that the Enterprise Drive section is complete, and that is a condition of the rezoning in order to have that point of access to the industrial area, with also having the access to Old Tilton Road. There was on the staff analysis a second condition, Condition B. We've stricken that condition. It doesn't necessarily apply to this particular facility as we now understand it. So that condition is not necessary to apply for this rezoning, but Condition A regarding Enterprise Drive would still be recommending to approve based on that condition. And I would be happy to answer any questions.
Looks like none. Thank you, Ethan.
Thank you.
Representative Core Scientific.
My name's Chip Scagliani with Core Scientific, and, you know, we're excited about this opportunity. This is a great opportunity for us to kind of develop this land into a data center where we have 2 facilities, as we see up here, is our ultimate goal. The secondary entrance off Old Tilton is really just primary for emergency access. So that's why we like having dual entry points to the site in case one site is somehow obstructed and we can't get on site. So that would be the need for that. It's not for daily traffic, just for emergency vehicles, pretty much only. So this, this development, each building, they're still in early design right now, but right now, each building's around 200,000 square feet, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit under that. They're fairly large buildings, and we do have, they will, basically will have about 200 people for the whole campus as far as round-the-clock employees. Now, it's not 200 every shift, it's split amongst 3 shifts. So we won't have constant flow of traffic through here. These are relatively high-paying jobs that we're bringing to the community for these 2 structures. And not to mention the construction effort that goes on while the facilities are being built. Our goal here with that first building is to start construction next several months, once we get through site plan approval and everything. And then we're looking to possibly turn this over, depending on some of the design, in June of '26. So it's a relatively short construction period, pretty aggressive, but it will result in nice tax revenue for the county, and, you know, high-paying jobs for the jobs that we do have here, so.
Good evening. How are you? My name's Carl Campbell. I run the Dalton Whitfield Joint Development Authority, and I've been working with Core Scientific on this project. And just say on behalf of them, you know, they've been in our community for about 6 years. They're currently spending quite a bit of money on electricity, which comes to our community in a lot of ways. They've got over $100 million worth of computers in our community right now. Their power bill is about $5 million a month. And so what that project does for us, number one, it does provide good paying jobs. Now, there's not a lot of jobs in these type of operations, so you're not dealing with a lot of traffic, but the jobs that are there, they pay very well. They provide a tremendous amount of tax revenue. If you think about, you know, $1 million worth of property on the tax rolls, that pays about $11,000 a year in taxes. Now, equipment's gonna depreciate, and that's kind of the gift that keeps on shrinking, if you will. And this is equipment that gets replaced very quickly. And so if you think about a traditional manufacturing machine, it might depreciate down in 10 or 12 years, but it might be operated for 20 to 30 years. This is a piece of equipment that's gonna run about 4 to 6 years, then it's gonna be replaced. So if they spend $100 million now, in 6 years, they're gonna spend $100 million more, and that just replenishes our tax base. And then all that money from the power generation helps our city through the transfer fees. So this is a great project because it provides revenue to Whitfield County Schools, and the city of Dalton. And you know, you can kind of look around the city of Dalton and see that they've used that money to make the community better in a lot of ways. And so, yeah, this is planned with entry and access for Enterprise Drive. This building that they're talking about, he's talking about a 200,000 square foot building. 2 of those, that top building will sit right next to a facility that's about 650,000 square feet and will be immediate neighbors to about 1 million square feet of manufacturing space. And so they will be one of the, probably the middle in size-wise of their neighbors, have less traffic than most of those neighbors as well, and bring a lot more value probably from a tax-based standpoint. So there's a lot of data center projects out there. We're telling most of those to go somewhere else. But Core's been here. They've done everything they said they would do. They've done it faster than they said they would do it. And they've invested in our community for, you know, putting money into workforce training for students and things like that. So they've been a good community partner. We'd like to see them grow here. And so from my standpoint, I would appreciate a recommendation to allow this. They're good neighbors. There's a property there that somebody has a home owned, and they actually offered to buy that family a new piece of land. It's a mobile home. The company offered to buy them a new piece of land and move their home for them if they didn't want to live through the construction timeline. The family just chose to relocate a little bit further south and stay where they are. So they've tried to be good neighbors. They've worked with us on their plans, and I think they'll do it the right way.
Where is the headquarters of the company?
It's in Washington State. Is that right?
No,
Oh, I'm
our
sorry.
headquarters in Austin, Texas. Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas.
I'm sorry, my contact's in Washington State. I thought that was the headquarters.
We're all over.
Okay, all right. So I was right before I was wrong.
Which one it is?
It's Texas.
We're based out of Texas. I'm a remote employee, so I work here out of Georgia. So.
Okay. Well, cool. Any other questions, gentlemen? None? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Carl.
Is there anybody in the public that would like to speak in favor? All right, does anybody like to speak in opposition? I think it's me. Very well. That closes the public portion. Oh, didn't see you get up. Sorry, gotta move quick.
I'm trying, I'm old.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, my name's Jimmy Mason. I happen to be the landowner right next to the lower building that they're butting up against, the lower building as, they're referred to as Building 2, I believe, and Mr. Whaley is Building 1. They're building up against I'm assuming that the noise that we're hearing already at our property is from the other buildings that's up there and operating already, on the Enterprise Drive, because we get a constant sound coming straight across the hill from where I live. And now that's about 6,000 feet from me now. And now you're gonna push it, I can't tell by the scale on it, but I'm gonna say 100 feet from the property line, thereabouts of where I'm at now. Also, I have a concern that I own all the land on the opposite side of the road, from, I can't tell from the map, but just past about where that road they're wanting to build to that Enterprise, the number 2 building, just past that, I own everything on the other side of the road, and I have a farm there, I don't know, 500, 700 acres, that total of that area. How's that gonna impact my farmland? I know that I ain't got chicken houses, but, but I'm concerned about what that's gonna do to it. Now, what kind of impact, what kind of noise are we gonna be getting? You know, typically these pumps run about 96 decibels, they can clarify that. But what kind of impact is it gonna have on us as people I was born and raised on that piece of property, and so has other people that's here, was born on the property right here, right next to it. I'm not against tax money. God knows the county needs the money for some reason. But we need to know what it's gonna impact. There's not many of us down there. I know that we're a small group that own all the property. But what's the impact gonna be on us? And what's the impact gonna be on our properties? Because like I said, straight across the road, it wasn't that long ago that I came through these about trying to get a small piece of it rezoned, and I was definitely told, oh, we want to keep all this down in here. We want to keep this all rural agriculture. We want to keep it ag. We want to keep it ag. That's what they said. No, this is not for development. And here we go. We're fixing to develop straight across the road from my farm. So I have issues that I would like to have some. I'd like to have some insurance of how, if it affects me, how am I going to be compensated, or how am I going to be taken care of? Fair enough?
We can
Thank you.
You can.
Is there anybody else who'd like to speak in opposition?
So as Mr. Mason stated, he's been a long-time member of the community. I have also.
Have your name?
My name is Ryan Stinson.
And you live, your address?
Tilton Road, yes, so just the other end of Old Tilton there. These facilities are incredibly loud. That's one thing he touched on. They have to super cool these facilities to keep the computers cool to do the processing. So, you know, we worry about that. many years ago, there was a rock crushing plant down off Tilton also, and it created a hum like he talked about. We got rid of that. We don't deal with that anymore. My concern is this facility is going to cause something similar. So, you know, again, I understand the revenue bringing in here, but where it's developing right now is currently the buffer. That's kind of the barrier between those manufacturing facilities and the residential that's already in that area. So, you know, we just want to make sure that to me, you're taking the only barrier that exists between the manufacturing we have now and the residential area. So, you know, we know the impact this is going to have. These are incredibly loud facilities, so we just don't want, we don't want to deal with that noise. And like he said, livestock, wildlife concerns, things like that, it's just not an optimal situation for the residents of the area, I believe.
Okay, thank you. All right. This can be the last one. Come on up. You got something new for us?
Nothing new, but I do own the property that's gonna be right behind it. Adam C.,
Yeah, what is it? Your
3029.
name and address, please?
Adam C., 3029 Hickory Flats Road.
Okay.
But I own property on Tilton, Old Tilton there, that I've got like 9 rentals.
Mhm.
And all of this is gonna be right up behind it. So that nobody's told me nothing about the noise, is my tenant's gonna say, hey, I'm out of here.
Mhm.
You know, nothing's been explained except for the money part.
Okay, well, we can get back, let him rebut and give us some information there.
All right, thank you.
All right. Sir? You want to, ma'am, we can let him rebut what has been brought up. It might answer your questions.
Yeah, I don't have all the particulars as far as what our current operation, as far as the decibels that the Bitcoin mining facility that we have.
Can you explain the data center? I mean, is most of the traffic going to be personal vehicles?
Wow,
Coming and going.
during operation, yes. During construction, no, we'll have.
No, during construction it's not, but once it's in operation.
Yeah, once it's in operation, there's very few
98%
deliveries.
is gonna be
Yeah.
personal vehicles.
Mail, just, yeah. It's
Because
mainly
it's
just,
almost a retail space.
it's a, yeah,
What I'm
it's
saying
like an office space with a
That's what
lot
I
less
mean.
occupants.
Yeah, it's like an office building.
Now, when they do server change out in 2.5 to 5 years, you're talking substantial change. I mean, they're being, transport trucks bringing that material in and
Yeah.
changing it out, but we're,
But basically, it's going to have the same effect on the surrounding area that an office building would have
correct,
as an operation.
correct.
I think the concern that they have is the noise.
Yes.
That's not a regular office space.
Correct, and so the noise levels with a data center versus a Bitcoin mining facility, they're two different noise levels. And the gentleman was talking about a constant hum. They will have, the Bitcoining facilities do have that constant hum because they've got a wall of fans sucking outside air, blowing it across the miners. We don't do that here. So we have chillers that are located on the roof or on structure up with the roof level. And those chillers exhaust the air straight up into the atmosphere. And that's how we reject the heat that's generated from these high computers that are within the data center. It is, generators aren't running unless it's emergency situation where we have lost utility power. The only thing that is running is the chillers on a constant basis, but we put sound attenuation on those to keep the sound levels down to where at any property line, we should be at or below 70 dBs at the property line. So that's safe hearing levels. And in a lot of cases, we're down at 55 or below. 55 is what your condensing unit outside makes, or your refrigerator in your house, the hum that you get from that. So, and that's with 100% load on these facilities and all our systems running. So we will do those noise studies and make them readily available if that's something that would be helpful.
Very good, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, ma'am, this is very, very last one. Make it quick.
Hi, my name is Brandy Brewer. We live directly across from where you're wanting to do your emergency road at 2789 Old Tilton Road, are you gonna be able to see the data center from that area right there? Well, is all the trees gonna be removed in that area?
We're not touching anything south of the building, for the most part, other than what we have to do to balance the stuff
Okay.
for our development. We're at the stream buffers and where the stream is, we're not touching that.
Okay, and I do just want to put on record, like, I know that the sound has been addressed already, but we are a family that has a son who has autism, and we build out in the country so that we could have the quiet. And already just the traffic that runs on Old Tilton Road is loud enough, so, you know, we don't really want the extra sound of all of that with a child that has autism. So, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, I'm going to,
Can I say one more thing, question? I wanna ask the question, I'm all for it, but the issue I have is the sound, so he says he's gonna be at 50, can we have him say he's proven before it's built? That we're only gonna be at 50 decibels when it crosses our property?
I think he said 70.
he said it could be as low as 50.
55. And we need the money, don't get me wrong. The county needs money for taxes. I know that this will happen, that ain't gonna stop it, but I'd rather be protected, we live next to it. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, no, so what we try and do is, you know, most ordinances across the country, 70 dB at the property line.
I understand that, but
More
you
than-
stated yours runs at
we
50.
try- What we end up by the time, with the offset of the building, by the time that sound hits the property line, it's about 55 dB. And that's about what your refrigerator does. So if that's a problem for you, then, you know, that could be an issue just living in your own house.
All right.
So I just want to add two pieces that may be helpful. Number one, part of their process that they're going to work on is they're also going to be updating their current facilities to newer technology, which will be quieter than what's there now. And then the other thing I was just going to mention is, they're not the only people in the area that have these blockchain data mining centers. So if you put a level on them for sound control, they don't control the whole conversation. There are two other facilities right next to theirs that do this, that it's a different company. And so they're hearing that noise as well. And if I'm being honest, those facilities are probably louder than theirs because of the way they're designed. So I just wanted to caution you on that.
All right, thank you. All right, we're going to close the public portion on Core Scientific. Moving on to the next one, Brittany Cronin, are you here? Okay, just checking. Brittany's seeking to rezone from R5 to SA, a tract of land containing 17 acres at 400 Richardson Road. Ethan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a straightforward rezoning from rural residential to suburban agriculture, a little over 16, almost 17 acres. Currently has a single-family detached dwelling. The petitioner's request was made in order to divide the property among their heirs via the family easement exemption. And so when we look at the property, we can see currently it's surrounded by the R5 zone district. However, the R5 and SA zone districts are quite similar in character. And in a lot of ways, SA is more restrictive than the R5 zone district in terms of density and in terms of the permitted type of development. Only single-family detached dwellings and manufactured homes will be permitted in SA. And again, lot density is restricted to a minimum of 3 acres per lot. Based on the existing zoning, we do see agricultural areas in this area. We see larger tracts, so we don't see any conflict with the existing zoning, with the existing development. And we really don't see an issue with the comprehensive plan. We're at another point of convergence in the rural residential character area. and the emerging suburban character areas collide at this point. And emerging suburban simply represents areas that can accommodate some additional development. So while this would allow potentially some family easement division of this land to occur, it would allow additional density, but it would be very rural in scale, which would fit with the area and the comprehensive plan. So we have no opposition from the staff's perspective and recommend approval. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
How many parcels would be divided in?
As I currently understand it, there will only be two.
Three.
Three.
People behind you were saying three.
Three.
So they will have the same entrance? So it'd be-
I think the petitioner may be able to better answer how the property would be divided.
All right. Thank you, Ethan.
Thank you.
Brittany? Name and address? Name and address?
Brittany Cronin, and I am the one that lives on the parcel right now, 400 Richardson Road.
Okay. You have any comments?
I was gonna say no unless y'all want those answers.
Yeah.
Is a partial touching Richardson Drive? Is that what-
So
That's
one
the
of
entrance?
them, say that again?
Richardson Drive will be the entrance
Yes.
for all three tracks?
Yes, so it would be an easement for all three tracks. One of them will be on solely to the one, but we'll have that easement going in.
So it will be one of the tracks with the existing building in it?
Yes.
And then you're basically going to
Yes.
subdivide for
Yeah,
two more.
we'll divide it where the house is on basically the right side of the road, and then the field will be just split kind of in half.
Okay. That's it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak in favor? Anybody like to speak in opposition? Excellent. We shall close the public portion on that request. The next request is from Solomon Dune. Are you here? Did I say it right? Dune. To rezone from R5 to C2, a tract of land, 1.55 acres at 1293 Dawnville Road. Ethan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, the request from rural residential R5 to general commercial C2. We see that the request here was made in order to expand an adjacent commercial business already zoned C2. And we can see the subject property currently part as parent tract as part of a larger R5 tract to the west. We can see the convergence of the general commercial and the R5 and GA districts here. Here you can see the development of this area. I think we got a closer look at the subject property and the surrounding development. As you can see, the subject property essentially at this state is undeveloped, and in the rear of the property that is adjacent, if you can see sort of on the northeastern boundary where that diagonal line, the adjacent property that's owned is right to the east of the subject property. And so this would allow an expansion of that existing commercial operation. And in order for the petitioner to utilize that space for storage, equipment storage, and truck parking behind the existing commercial retail building. And when we look at the future development map, what we see is this is an area, again, that's sort of within both the community activity center and the rural residential character area. And again, with a collision of development patterns like this, it makes these areas somewhat tricky to plan for on those boundaries where they intersect. So when we look here and we look at the existing development, while the tract to the west is zoned R5, the building with the green roof on it there is a commercial cabinet shop. So we do see commercial use also to the west. So when you take into consideration the amount of commercial zoning and commercial development adjacent to the subject property, it would lean one to believe that this property would be a viable commercial property. It's also worth pointing out that because the property is currently undeveloped, any future development of this property, certainly from a structural standpoint, would be required to provide for a buffer along the northern and western boundaries of the subject property. So that would help to mitigate any visual change to this property for any commercial use from those adjacent tracts that are a little larger and more residential or agricultural in character. So based on all those factors, staff recommendation is that the rezoning can be approved, or should be approved.
Thank you, Ethan.
Thank you.
I have one question.
Oh, one?
And it may be answered by the petitioner, but when you said truck traffic, are you talking 18-wheeler type, or the petitioner may be able to answer it?
I think the petitioner could more accurately answer that.
Okay. Very good, thanks.
I was thinking of it in a sense of semis going down Bonneville Road, you know, if that was.
Hello, my name is Solomon Donay. I live on Thrasher Hills, and that's going to be dump trucks, just 2 dump trucks. We have a landscaping business. I've been in business in this community for 25 years, and what brought me to this piece of property was the county stayed on my tail for parking my trucks on my 4.5-acre property in the county. So I bought this piece of property in 2019, which was Zone 2. I took it from a 1-business garage to 4 rental outlets, which brought more business to that community. Last May, I attempted to add a 1,800 square foot building behind my property, a 30 by 6 metal building, metal structure, metal beams, concrete floor, non-flammable. So I got the permit, I was approved, and the very next day, the county stopped me and said I need a stormwater plan for a 1,800 square foot building. And if you could put the other map back up for me, I want to show you one thing. You see the pasture right behind me, there's a large pond, there's a large oval spot. That's a state water pond. That's gonna be 100 foot from my building site. So after spending $7,000 on engineering plans to divert water to this pond, that's eventually gonna go in that pond, which they're about 100 foot apart. I complied and I went through with it. I've, followed all the rules that the stormwater management wanted me to do. So when we got that done 6 months later, I was blindsided with, I need to put a fire hydrant in front of a commercial building that's been there over 20 years already in the county. So their argument was, I'm adding another commercial building. Well, it's non-flammable. It's a storage building pretty much. The fire department has a fire hydrant 448 feet from the front of my building. If you can see where my building is, you can see the fire department just north of it. There's a fire hydrant there 448 feet. The location of my building is 300 yards from the fire department. This building is costing me $29,000 to put up. The fire hydrant's cost me $15,000 for a fire hydrant, and I've spent over $7,000 on stormwater plans. That doesn't include the labor I'm gonna have to put in to do that. So I personally don't agree with the fire hydrant policy. I mean, you can't paint every building with a wide brush where, if one's not flammable, one is flammable, one is a warehouse. There needs to be some kind of exception for this policy. So I hope, something comes out of this where we can make it easier for small business owners to continue to develop. Because I do have future plans on adding a few more buildings just like that back there and helping the community, grow business-wise, so.
Well, afraid we can't help you with the fire
We
hydrant.
can't help you with some of those.
I understand, but I just want, I spoke to Commissioner Jensen about it and told him it's just really, it's not feasible, when you're spending $15,000. And it should not be a consumer cost, What's our property taxes going to? My property taxes went from $1,600 to $3,300 last year. This building's been here over 20 years. Why am I having to put a fire hydrant in there?
Okay.
So it's just,
We get you, but
yeah.
can't help you there. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Anybody else like to speak in favor? Anybody like to speak in opposition? Very good. We'll close the public portion on that. Ivan Rangel. Okay, thank you. Ivan Rangel is seeking to rezone from R5 to GA, tract of land of 5.01 acres located at 1191 Franklin Hill Road. Ethan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The request here for change to rural residential to general agriculture was prompted by the petitioner's desire to have an animal husbandry operation for, I believe it was goats, noted on the agenda. So currently, the subject property only has accessory structures. There's no dwelling on this property. Petitioner is using it solely as an agricultural property. And their request was in order to be able to use that property strictly for agriculture, which would not be permitted with additional density of animals as the petitioner is interested in under the R5 zone district. So we can see here the convergence between the GA, general agriculture, and the R5 rural residential zone districts. When we look at the development of this area, again, we see the convergence of what you would expect to see, largely undeveloped tracts, a lot of topography in this area, and we can see the subject property lying at the convergence of existing development of the residential community and then that of the agricultural and forested areas. There we can see a closer view of the subject property, and it just meets the minimum size for general agriculture at a little over 5 acres in size, and so would be eligible for the general agriculture zone district. We can see that it is within the rural residential and adjacent to the preserve character area, both of those with the intent of reducing density and lot size and development in these areas. So there would be certainly compliance to the comprehensive plan at this location without any doubt to the intent of those character areas and how the general agriculture zone would comply with that. So the recommendation from the staff is this rezoning should be approved, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ragland? State your name and address, please.
My name is Ivan Rangel, and I reside in 110 North Circle down in Dalton, Georgia. It's 8 miles from where I reside, but it's where we bought some land to raise goats. And sorry, got lost.
That's all right.
Yes.
Can you tell us about the structures on the site?
Yes. The structures were. One was built to store farm equipment and feed, but due to not getting a permit, if it doesn't get rezoned to general agriculture, we have to demolish it. Every day I drive up there 8 miles to feed them. No complaints. Not if there is complaints, I have resolved them. The National Forest is right behind us, and that's pretty much it.
So you do have goats there now?
Yes, but I'm limited to only 10 because of the R5, and to have more, I need a general agriculture.
How many do you hope to have?
At least 20 to 30.
20 to 30?
20 to 30.
Is the property fenced?
Yes, it is fenced all the way around.
All the way around the site as we see it on the maps?
Yes.
Okay. No other questions?
No.
Oh, God. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
All right, anybody else like to speak in favor? Anybody like to speak in opposition? Favor, sir. Favor? Okay, come on up.
My name is Gabriel Salisis, and I reside at 1188, right across the street from them. I've been there about 13 years already. It's been a pleasure having them as neighbors. I talk and interact with them daily. They have no issues with me. They'll break your back for you if you need help. Nobody helps take care of the road that we live on. We can't get the county to help us. And ever since I've moved in there, they've helped take care of the road. I've helped take care of the road. I mean, I couldn't ask for better neighbors.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Hang on a second. Ethan, can you put the map back up? There you go. So you live where, just up to
Right
the,
across the street, right there behind,
at that little house there?
yeah, with the,
To the
you
upper-
can see the driveway.
Okay,
You know, as he said, you know, he has goats, he has animals, but I've never met harder working people that come up there every day to feed, the water, the goats, the animals, make sure they're taken care of. I mean, myself, I wouldn't do it. I mean, I'm just being honest. But they're up there every day, rain, sleet, snow, and anybody on the street that asks them for help, they stop and help. So, I mean, if they're wanting to rezone it, I'm up for it because, you know, they've worked hard for what they've done. They keep their land clear where, you know, people that live there 24 hours a day can't even do that. They make it look like trash up there. The people that has been coming in and out up there, if you know that neighborhood, it's bad. You know, people using drugs. I've had to clean my yard where people's throw needles, paraphernalia out in the yard. So we're trying to clean it up out there.
okay.
You know, so, and I mean, they're a good addition to the community up there.
All right, very good.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is that a county road? No?
When I need help, it's a county road. When I need help, it's a private road, but whenever,
Yeah.
you understand what I'm saying?
All right,
So when I ask the county to help me put some rock down, it's a private road.
yep. Gotcha.
But when they want to do something or tell us what to do, it's a county road. I guess that's the best way I can put it.
Very good.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, my taxes go up, but no rocks on the road.
I understand. Good evening, everybody. My name's Kevin Barber. I live at 1177 Franklin Hill Road, right next door to this gentleman's property. And as you can see by the letter or the diagram the zoning sent me, I'm a retired contractor from Florida, I know. I love Dalton. Me and my wife moved up here. Been paying property taxes for about 17 years on this property right here. If you look at the map behind you, you'll see that there's an area that's been cleared. And there's a fence line that Mr. Rangel put up, and he's impeding me from accessing my property. Now, Mr. Rangel raises animals here, but he doesn't have a well, okay? On my property, there's a stream that comes in. So he's accessed my property for his animals. And first of all, let me state that I don't have a problem with the animals. The goats don't bother me. I was raised on goat milk, and I love goat cheese. I've never had a problem with them. They drive by my house every day. They're very respectful. I don't want to have to take him to court to sue him because he's cut down about 75 trees on my property without my permission or knowledge. I would ask that this board suspend this application for at least 45 days to give Mr. Rangel time to correct his issues. On his application, I believe it states that there should be no structures within 25 feet of the property line. And if you could send that to them, they can clearly see there's structures within 25 feet. In fact, there's structures on my property without my knowledge or consent. Now, I paid my property taxes for 17 years faithfully. And I have no problems with these folks. But somebody's got to do something about this.
Have you contacted him?
I just got this information in the mail. Have I contacted him? No, I actually went to the site today.
Concerning the property line?
Well, I went up to see what it looked like. They had the gate open, so I drove up with my vehicle and asked them if I could inspect the property. They said yes. So I took pictures and video. And what's up there? It should not be allowed on my property. I have no problem with them. If they want to move the fence and put it on their property, all day long. Now, not only on my property have they done it, they've done it on the adjacent property on the other side, and the gentleman's here with me. Now, my question is, if Mr. Rangel can figure out where the property line is in the rear for the National Forest, how come he can't figure it out on the sides where our property is?
These are different issues. You don't have a problem with the goats, but you
I
have
don't have a problem with the goats.
You have a problem with the property lines.
I have a problem with the impeding my access through my property.
All right. Very good, thank you.
Yeah, survey.
Is there anybody else who'd like to speak in opposition? All right, Mr. Rangel? Come on up. Excuse me? Are you speaking for Mr. Rangel?
Yes.
He said okay? Yeah. All right, your name and address?
I'm Jose Rango. I live at 110 Northwood Circle, and we've been maintaining that property for both sides, for the past 18, 19 years. And he has never come up there and said anything until we had all these problems. And he came up there maybe like a month ago and say to my brother that he wasn't really gonna do anything. So
Okay, so you just passed on it then, right?
yeah, we just.
So the issue,
But I know we have problems with the fence line. They told us to wait right now until we resolve this, and
well, this would not have anything to do, they're two separate issues.
Yeah.
You'll have to get a surveyor.
yeah, that's what we're trying
And-
to
But the
deal with that, to get our property lines fixed and everything.
property as on the tax rolls, which we are
Yeah.
dealing with now, we're dealing with the issue of the zoning change only.
But about building any close to the line, I think we're well within the 25-foot line of what he's saying.
Well, then you'll have to get that
Yeah.
survey done and then take your measurements.
Oh, okay. Well,
All right.
thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, I think we can close the,
We require him to do the property line, the survey before you approve this?
no.
Nothing to do with it.
We are approving it based on the county records. Rhonda Tucker and Emily Tanner, are you here?
Randy.
Mr. Z. Sure is cute. Anyhow, Rhonda Tucker and Emily Tanner are seeking to rezone R5 to SA. A piece of property for 12.03 acres located along Donna Lynn Drive. Ethan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have another request to rezone from rural residential to the suburban agriculture zone district for very similar reasoning. In this case, it's in regard to heirs of the subject property requesting to be able to rezone the property and divide it through the family easement exemption. I believe they and their representation is here that can further describe to more detail about how they would like to divide the property. But as we look at the zoning in this area, we can see the convergence between the general agriculture and the R5 zone districts. The SA zone district is a district created in order to serve as a transition between residential and the heavier general agriculture zone districts. So in a zoning sense, it's the perfect fit for the SA zone district. It certainly meets the minimum lot size required for SA, so it would be eligible for the rezoning. And again, from a development standpoint, similar to zoning, we really don't see any issue with this rezoning at this location, even if it were divided under the family easement exemption, because those lots would be limited to a minimum of 3 acres in size, so it wouldn't greatly impact the density of the area or the character of the area as requested. So the future development map would then show that it's between or on the emerging suburban side for additional development, but adjacent to the preserved character area. And again, this would allow, through the family easement exemption with a shared access easement, the division of this land into parcels of a minimum size of 3 acres. And so it would sort of satisfy the need of the emerging suburban character area as well as being respectful of the preserved character area by not creating a lot of density. So with all that being said, absolutely no opposition to this from a staff perspective and recommendation for approval. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ethan.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'm not Rhonda Tucker or Emily Tanner, but I am Tom Miner, and I'm here to represent the petitioner. Just to be very brief, Mr. Ethan did a great job in the introduction. This is a situation where a Mrs. Janie Pauline Earwood devised this property to her children, and our surveyor and the planning staff has worked to come up with a way to make that happen for these various requests. So this 12 acres, as Ethan said, would be rezoned into SA, which would allow this division and then the executors to follow through with the devices that were bequeathed to the children in the will.
Is Collins Road a county road?
Which one?
Collins?
Let me look at my map. I think it is. Yes, right up to the edge of the property. Donna Lynn Drive is not.
So the entrance will be in Collins Road?
Correct, at the end. Be a new easement.
Okay. Questions? Thank you, Mr. Minor.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else like to speak in favor? Anybody like to speak in opposition? Excellent. Closes the public portion on that. Crow Road Holdings.
Is he here?
Is Crow Road here? Crow Road, there you are. Okay. Couldn't see you back, I was looking over that way. Okay. Ethan, Crow Road Holdings is seeking to rezone from M2 to R5. Tract of land of 9.88 acres located along Tunnel Hill, Varnell Road. Ethan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This request, again, to rezone from heavy manufacturing to rural residential. The petitioner's request is made in order to develop this property with either 2 duplex dwellings or 4 single-family detached dwellings. And of course, the petitioner can answer to those plans in greater detail. But simply put, as we look at the zoning map, I think we can see that the subject property is somewhat out of character with the majority of surrounding zoning and development. You can see that island of purple is the heavy manufacturing zone district and is only adjacent to one other very small tract of land zoned M2. So we switch over to the existing development of this area, and what we see here is very much like the zoning map, mostly single-family detached residential and small lot single-family residential. So we do see that character. And of course, the proposal of the petitioner to develop housing as permitted in the R5 zone district would be a far better fit for the subject property than the existing heavy manufacturing zone district. Here we see in the emerging suburban area of the comprehensive plan, so this area has been planned for additional residential density and development as part of the comprehensive plan. And again, based on the existing zoning, the proposed R5 zone district is adjacent, common in the area, and a much better representation than heavy manufacturing. So staff recommendation is to approve.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Brandon Harrison, 872 Hunt Road. This was on manufacturing. I just want to rezone it to R5 so I can build a few houses on it.
They gonna have individual driveways or one driveway in the, will they each have a driveway into the highway?
I'm just glad you asked. I thought it was going to be quick, but there's state DOT road, 2 access points right there on it. Already there, state DOT's approved it.
Okay.
But I have had it under contract since December, and it was until Friday that I got what I could do with the property from county. And I do got to put
How's that ever manufacturing? What was there?
I don't know about that, but anyways, I do have to put a fire hydrant in, so I never had to do that before on residential, but
Can't help you there.
new rule. So it was on the piece of property across the street where the commercial building is, and years ago, they just combined it together. That's, as far as I know, that's kind of the way.
So topographically, you're going to build all the way to the back of the site?
No, sir, no, sir.
The road.
Mainly just at the front.
You did something right next to it, right? Or
Same sellers. Same sellers that sold me those wanted to sell me this.
Okay, thank you, Brandon.
Thank
you. Anybody like to speak in favor? Anybody like to speak in opposition? Very well. closes the public portion on that request. And Macy Strong? Macy Strong is seeking to rezone tract of land GA to R5, 2.14 acres located at 174 Ben Putnam Road. Nathan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This property, again, Ben Putnam Road, request from general agriculture to be rezoned to rural residential for the purpose of being able to divide the property from the larger parent tract that currently exists. So we've outlined here on the zoning map the proposed size of the subject property, which would be 2.14 acres and has been identified by meets and bounds as part of a survey. And the reason that they are requesting this is because in order to divide from a general agriculture zone district, the minimum lot size in general agriculture is 5 acres. And the petitioner has requested or has proposed to divide off a smaller portion of property, which would be the 2.14 acres. And we can see what that would look like on the zoning map with the size of the proposed subject property. And of course, the rezoning would change the color from that dark green in the general agriculture to the orange in the R5. And when we look at that area, what we see is R5 is very common. It's adjacent to the subject property on multiple boundaries, and we see islands of R5 within GA where similar instances have already occurred. So the R5 zone district is common in the area. The lot size is very comparable to a number of adjacent lots and nearby development. And again, from the aerial perspective, we see a lot of continuity with the zoning map, mostly lower density residential, exactly as proposed by the petitioner. And here we see within the rural neighborhood revitalization, and in this case, based on the existing zoning, being general agriculture and rural residential, throughout this area, we see no conflict with the intent of the comprehensive plan. And the recommendation from staff is for an approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
None, thank you.
Thank you.
Macy?
Hey, good evening. My name is Macy Strong. I reside at 174 Ben Putnam Road. This is my grandparents' property. My parents are just giving me a section of their property in order to build a single-family residence.
Simple enough.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions back there? Hang on a second. Commissioners, good?
Sorry.
All right, thank you.
Good, thank you.
Anybody else would like to speak in favor? Anybody like to speak in opposition? Very well, that closes the public portion on that, and I think the county commissioners will be leaving us at this time. The remainder of the items are in the city of Dalton. Y'all good to stay? Keep going?
Sure. Yeah?
Keep going?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay. Elda Ramirez?
She's right there.
She's right there? Okay. Elda Ramirez seeking to rezone from R5 to SA, tract of land .38 acres at 436 South Glenwood Avenue. Ethan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The rezoning here would be from rural residential to general commercial. And when we look at the existing property, what we have is 2 single-family detached dwellings, 1 dwelling per lot, 2 tracts total, making up the subject property, and the request to be rezoned for general commercial. So the petitioner's interest is in order to utilize this corner lot for commercial use rather than residential. And when we look at the development in this area, you can see, or the zoning for first of all, you can see there's a small island of R5. It consists of essentially 4 single-family detached dwellings, and 2 of those being on the subject property. All surrounding this area, we have commercial manufacturing, downtown commercial, the light manufacturing, heavy manufacturing, and general commercial zone district. So we do see this established commercial and industrial character. When we look at, again, the development of the area, you see all the rooftops, large commercial manufacturing rooftops in this small island of essentially 4 single-family detached dwellings. That's hard to even consider a pocket neighborhood of this particular scale. It's very, very small, still in single digits of single-family homes surrounded in this industrial and commercial area. So the change in use from residential to commercial in this location is not one that we see as a shift for the community or a big change to the character of the area. One thing to point out is that with any of the adjacent residential property zoning, both, even though the properties to the north are not developed for residential, they are zoned for residential as well as to the west. Any development on the subject property, whether these buildings were to be raised or any significant change to them, buffers would have to be established if any of that new development were to occur that would help mitigate any impact on those existing residential structures that would be to the west. The main concern here to raise is the issue of parking and changing the subject property from residential, single family, to general commercial for this type of commercial space requires around 3.5 spaces per 1,000 square feet floor area. So currently, there's very limited space on the subject property for any commercial parking. And of course, that commercial parking would have to be established. It would have to be cement or asphalt. And again, it currently doesn't exist on the property. They would have to respect the setbacks and buffers. So there's some concern as to whether or not the feasibility for parking can be satisfied without some changes to this property and in creating additional parking space. It's going to have to be redeveloped, or one of the 2 buildings may have to be raised in order to meet those parking standards. And of course, they would have to obtain business licenses and things within inside the city of Dalton. They would see to it that the parking would be met prior to any issuance of any sort of license for that type of operation. And of course, petitioner can answer as to more specifics of how they would like to utilize and develop the property. Just wanted to make that very clear that parking as it currently stands would not be able to likely be satisfied based on the limited space. And other than that, recommendation is for approval. The zoning seems to fit well in this area. And in the comprehensive plan, this is within a commercial area for the downtown town center expansion. And of course, I think it's quite ready for the C3 zone district from being detached from the downtown as it is. But certainly based on the existing manufacturing and the general commercial zone district, C2 zone district is a good fit for this location at this particular point in time. Recommendation to approve, and we believe that the parking issues would be addressed at a later time as part of the business license or any future redevelopment of the subject property.
So it's no condition for them to have parking spaces now?
There's no condition currently. That could certainly be made a part of the condition of the rezoning. I believe that there are other ordinances in place that should address that.
When you say other ordinances,
Well, based on the zoning ordinance requires them to have those parking spaces, so they will have to obtain, or they'll have to create parking on this property. And in order to do that, they'll have to be permitted to do so because of stormwater, impervious surface, and by the time you calculate the amount of parking and the square footage of the dwellings, they're likely going to be triggered by several ordinances that the city would then be able to address.
Why can you make a condition of that subject to the approval?
That can certainly be a condition. And in fact, I think the condition could simply be put that any commercial use of the subject property would be in compliance with the minimum parking standards of the zoning ordinance. And that would be a belts and suspenders approach.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I am Elda Ramirez. My address is 618 South Thornton Avenue, Dalton, Georgia. I think to change the zoning to this piece of property will benefit the city and will enhance the beauty of Dalton, because right now, maybe you're already familiar with that building, that they're not in good shape. And I have couple people asking me for that piece of property. They want to buy it, and one of them want to have an office, and another one is thinking about a gas station. I have told them about that they need to call them first to find out all the details, but whomever buys it, you know, they will do the research, but the point is that the property being commercial will look better for Dalton. That's it.
You understand the parking
Yes,
condition?
yes, I understood that, but you know, whomever buys it, he will be sent to him, so they give them all the rules and whatever they can do with it.
Okay. No other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak in favor? Anybody want to speak in opposition? That closes public portion on that request. Juan Figueroa? Just need to know you're here. Anyhow, Juan Figueroa is seeking to rezone from M2 to R6, 0.41 acres at 909 Riverbend Road. Ethan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The rezoning here would be heavy manufacturing to transitional residential, with the intent of the petitioner to be able to construct a triplex on the subject property. Currently, the heavy manufacturing only allows industrial and manufacturing use. The petitioner's desire to use the property for residential use would require a rezoning, and that is the most conservative residential zone district that would accommodate the needs of the petitioner. Here we can see it's heavily within the M2, the zone district for industrial area. We do see a small pocket neighborhood along New Doris Street where we've seen very similar requests for duplexes or single-family detached dwellings, and this is adjacent to that neighborhood and has similar character and lot density. And we can see the R5 zone district where properties have been rezoned adjacent to the subject property and along New Doris Street. So we see the development in the area, again, fits with the zoning map. We see a lot of industrial development, some commercial development, but we also see this smaller neighborhood, primarily along New Doris Street, but Riverbend Road as well. Here's a closer view of the subject property, so you can see it's currently undeveloped, and the petitioner is proposing a triplex. And you can see the commercial development to the north, as well as some to the east. And it's within the town neighborhood revitalization character, which is intended to promote investment into areas, residential areas. And this would create new construction within this residential area at a scale that we believe is compatible with the area, and certainly an improvement from the heavy manufacturing zone district, which is really not feasible for the subject property. So we believe it gives a reasonable use for the property without putting any undue burden on any of the adjacent property owners. Recommend approval, and be happy to answer any questions.
None? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Figueroa?
This is my son. Well, here I'm gonna be translating for him. Since obviously there's a little bit of a language barrier.
Juan Figueroa?
Yes, I'm Figueroa. All right. My address is 207 George Avenue. Okay. All right, and basically he just wants to make a triplex. He addressed everything perfectly fine, and yeah, that's it. He just wants to make a triplex, smaller neighborhood. Want to add a little bit more of life to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Questions?
Okay, thank you.
None? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
Anybody else like to speak in favor? In opposition? Closes that one. And again, Mr. Figueroa. Read it. Seeking to rezone from yeah, same guy. Seeking to rezone from M2 to R5, 0.99 acres, the intersections of Warder, Ford, and Rowena Streets. Say that quickly. Ethan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Have another request, same petitioner for a change from heavy manufacturing to rural, that's a hard one to say after all night, rural residential. So the change that would take place on the property would be to change the property from its current zoning for manufacturing use in order to divide and develop the subject property with around up to 5 new residential lots that may consist of a combination of duplexes and single-family detached units. There's been no site plan submitted as part of this, so there is no specific number that we were given currently by the petitioner. They may be able to answer to greater detail. But the permitted uses of the R5 zone district would be that of single-family detached dwellings and duplex dwellings. What we can see here is based on the existing zoning. We can see the high-density residential zone district to the north and the R5 rural residential to the south. So this would just increase the existing R5 zone district and shrink this island of manufacturing that we see on the subject property. And of course, we see a significant density in this area, both single-family small lot development. We see duplexes as well as the apartment complex to the north. A closer look at the subject property, again, undeveloped. And also within the town neighborhood revitalization character area, which we believe this rezoning would be in alignment with no issues or concerns in regard to the comprehensive plan. We believe this would be an implementation that would fit well with the comprehensive plan's intent. So, citing no issues, staff recommendation is to approve.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up again.
So get straight to the point is, again, he addressed everything just fine. And if you don't mind. So the way it's all set up, it's 5 lots. 2 of those lots would be for duplexes, and the other 3. Oh, you already got it? Okay.
Thank you, though.
You're welcome. Oh, yeah. I was saying 2 of them would be used for duplexes, and the other 3 would be used for single-family residences. And since that area is already filled with duplexes and single-family dwellings, we think it'll fit right in.
Okay.
All right, that's it.
That works. Questions?
No.
No?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Anybody like to speak in favor? In opposition? Excellent. We'll close that one. Preferred Tufters? Preferred, okay, thank you. Say what? Oh, I'm sorry.
He's here.
I'm sorry.
Jason.
Jason Jackson.
Jason.
He's about to.
Okay. So we're up to Jason here. Jason Jackson, seeking to rezone from C4 to C3, 0.34 acres located at 400 South Hamilton Street. It's in the city. Oh, that's what I got here. Good. I'm up to speed now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The item before us now is, again, rezoning from the transitional commercial zone district to the central business district, C4 to C3. And the proposed change is in order for the petitioner to be able to construct an additional building on their existing property for their existing business. But that additional building would not meet the setback requirements of the C4 zone district. And of course, the difference between C4 and C3 lies not so much in the uses that are permitted or even the density that they're permitted, but the C4 zone district is intended to require conventional setbacks and off-street parking, whereas the C3 downtown zone district is for zero lot line development and on-street parking. You don't have to provide for off-street parking in the downtown central business district. And so that's the chief character difference in this rezoning. We can see the subject property on the zoning map, and it is at the border of the C3 and the C4 zone district. There was a rezoning some while back, just a little bit to the west of the subject property, and where we can see that the C3 zone district has moved across West Morris Street in this direction previously. Slightly different layout, slightly different development plan. But we can see here the conventional downtown just to the north, across East Morris Street. It's also where the city's historic district ends as well for the historic downtown. So none of the historic regulations would apply to the subject property in this case. And we can see the existing development with some several setback encroachments, while the C3 zone district is intended to follow around the periphery of the conventional or historical downtown. What we see here as well are a number of buildings, including the subject property, as well as several others adjacent to it, that while they're within the C4 zone district and required to have conventional setbacks, there's several of those that are encroaching essentially at zero lot line. So there's already an existing issue that we have with setbacks and some non-conforming structures in this area. However, when we look at the subject property, we can see similar characteristic to the other properties in terms of setback and size. Again, commercial use, the uses really don't change. The proposed use is permitted within the C3 zone district, just as it is in the C4 zone district. So it wouldn't affect the petitioner's business operation. It would simply allow them to build an additional building. Currently, the main concern, based on the staff review, is for on-street parking and off-street parking. This property is not part of what was the conventional downtown. And so therefore, there's not a lot of public parking surrounding the subject property. And it's very important that the type of use and the type of business being operated on the subject property be able to provide for off-street parking to bring vehicles that are being serviced and being worked on off of the public parking area, which is for more short-term retail use and things to that nature. So that was the main concern, was to satisfy the need for automobiles for service. And I believe the petitioner can answer to that in greater detail about the workings of the business and what this new building would be utilized for. But something we think we have recommended for several other businesses that have proposed to do similar developments with the downtown district from a change to C4. Very quickly, it is within the downtown town center character area of the comprehensive plan, so the downtown is expected to expand into this area, and we see no conflict with the joint comprehensive plan. So we have two conditions with staff analysis. The staff analysis ultimately recommends approval of the rezoning, but two conditions, one being that any automobiles or equipment scheduled for service or repair must be stored on the subject property or another private property and not stowed in public parking. Any building additions or new structures should be required to have a masonry facade on any walls facing the public street frontage in order to maintain the conventional style of downtown. Changing to this downtown zone district, again, it's outside the historic boundary of the downtown. We want to make sure that they're maintaining that integrity that we have established in the downtown zone district. And of course, that would only apply to the wall visible to the public right-of-way, which would be along West Morris Street. That is the staff recommendation, and as well as conditions for approval with those two conditions. And I would be happy to answer any questions.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Jackson?
It's Jason Jackson, 1050 Buckingham Way. If what I understand correctly, he's saying the new building, it's only going to be for storage because I have two 53-foot tractor and trailers there now, that stuff's stored in, those will go away. This will come there, which I feel like looks a lot better, and it'll make us work a lot easier. But the issue, from what I understand, he's saying that building would have to have a block or brick front masonry, correct?
Correct.
I don't understand that stipulation because there's 90% of my building is metal. This building would exactly match what I have now, so it wouldn't be odd for being there. And it's literally set back more than anything.
Your building now, it's got a little brick on the bottom.
The front portion is, which is the original building,
Yeah.
was brick and kind of
The new-
just
your
old
two
brick.
new bays are built, they're
Everything, there's
metal.
4 new bays there that are all metal. And I want it to look good, you know, I own the building across the street and I make it look good. But I don't want it to look bad for downtown because I'm gonna be there.
You're gonna make it look similar then?
It'll be exactly like my existing part that I added on a few years back. And because having the block front is gonna make it look like nothing like I got, you know, basically. But as far as use, you know, it's only used for storage and basically to get rid of those trailers that are ugly there now. And that'll allow us about 10 new parking spots because we'll eliminate those trailers.
Those trailers have gone already, right?
Yeah, no, one of them's gone right now, just moved, but, because we're gonna get in there to work. But, the other one will be gone, yes, once we get that building built and get that stuff out of there, into there, we're good.
So they won't have any bay doors on it?
Yeah, 3 bay doors.
It will have
Yes,
3 bay doors, so
yes.
you could do work inside on vehicles?
I guess you could, but of course, we got 6 bays up here that we can work out of. But the problem is, the stuff stored in those bays right now is stuff to work with, so we can't work in them. So if we can get storage in
I've been
there.
He ain't lying.
Yeah, hey, I'll be honest with you, you know, it's a problem or I wouldn't want to build another one, you know. The issue is you can't keep all the stuff I got in where it's at and work there, in there.
I understand you've already poured a slab?
Yeah, I did. Because I was under the impression, I know at least 4 or 5 buildings that went up similar to what I'm putting up, that because it really don't have anything, it's a slab and metal building, that's it. And none of those people have a permit. Never even thought about that situation.
So that slab is significantly smaller than the 53-foot trailers, right?
Correct, yeah, a lot. Yeah, it's probably
This
about
is
half the
not that
size.
big.
You know, it's half the size. And it's off the road, it's not like, the 53-foot trailers are at the road pretty much, you know. It would eliminate that. It would get, like I said, there's at least 10 more parking spots created by that, which we could use too.
Okay. Questions? No questions. Good. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Anybody would like to speak in favor? Anybody like to speak in opposition? Very well. That closes that request. 2 more. Preferred Tufters, yes. Okay. Preferred Tufters is seeking to get a zoning change from M2 to R5 for 1.36 acres located along Cargill Drive. Ethan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Another similar request, again, very similar to the others that we've seen tonight. Same situation with the request to be able to divide the subject property for multiple duplex dwellings to be constructed on the subject property. And here we can see zoning, again, convergence M2 and R5. So we see the R5 zone district. This would simply enlarge that and shrink the M2 district. Existing development, you can see in this area, we have residential surrounding. In fact, the majority of adjacent tracts of land are residential, with the exception of the manufacturing to the north. So we see the established character for residential in this area, both in zoning and development. And we see mixed density throughout these areas, single family, and we see some multifamily near the subject property. Again, a closer look at the subject property as it stands. And town neighborhood revitalization character for additional investment into the residential area, respectful of essentially the density that's been established, and based on the size of the subject property and the road frontage, it could be similar to what we see already established in this area. So staff find no issues or concerns with the proposed rezoning based on no anticipation for negative impact or a change in character to the area. This would simply allow the subject property to be developed for residential use rather than manufacturing, which we believe would be a better neighbor for the adjacent residential properties. Recommendation to approve, and happy to answer any questions.
None? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Jason Goldberg. I'm president of Preferred Tufters. That's actually our real estate company. We rent the building back to our other businesses, so it's, it's just us. And if you look, if you actually bring up the map that had yes, so if you look here, this is our facility here that comes in from River Bend Drive, and there was a little single lot by itself that back sometime middle of last year, we petitioned you guys to let us rezone it, and we built a little house on there, and basically, we're mowing the grass there, and we're mowing the grass here. And to me, it's a waste. It's been 40-some years it's been like that nobody's done anything. You can't get truck and trailer through any of these streets without major improvement. And we're leaving enough space to come behind and add on to the building behind, if somebody wanted to do that in the future. Space along the side there to add, I think, another 40 foot without infringing on the side of the property, and develop that into 7 lots. And with what we did with the one house that we asked for the lot to be rezoned last year, was we built a small 1,100 and approximately 50 square foot home, and within 1 week of listing it, it was under contract, and we literally finished construction and closed 2 days later. So to me, there's a need for it, which is what we were looking for, was to, 1, stop mowing grass, and 2, to do something constructive with it. I'm being serious. I mean, to me, it's we're spending money to mow grass, and that's been going on for almost 50 years. And we're just asking for, your grace to move forward and build a few more houses and do it in a proper manner. We built a very nice house. You should go see it. We did custom cabinets, marble tops. It was done very well, and we'll do the exact same thing with the others.
Okay.
So,
Very good.
bet.
Questions? None? Thank you, sir.
Bet, thank you.
Okay, anybody to speak in favor? Opposition? Very good. Now to our last request. Patiently sitting. Mr. Adcock, right? That's okay, not yet. Just confirming. Don Adcock is seeking to rezone from neighborhood commercial C1 to R3. Tract of land of a total of .18 acres at 404 West Hawthorne Street. Ethan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This request would be to, again, rezone from the neighborhood commercial zone district to the medium-density, single-family residential zone district. And what we see is a desire to go from commercial back to single-family residential. And we can see here this area converges to several different zone districts, C1A to the south, which is limited commercial. And we can see the neighborhood commercial zone district surrounding the subject property on that north and east boundary, and to the west, the heavy manufacturing zone. When we look at the development in the area, we see similar to what we saw on the zoning map, largely commercial and with some residential throughout the area, particularly to the north. Here we can see the subject property in its current state. As you can see that it currently contains a single-family detached dwelling. And it has been used for commercial use, but certainly still maintains its single-family residential character. So the proposal by the petitioner is certainly something that is feasible. And here we have it within the subject property, within the town neighborhood revitalization character area, again, similar to what we've seen previously. The staff recommendation in this case was, of course, there is absolutely no issue. Staff has no issue with R3, and that would be perfectly reasonable. However, there may be some consideration for the neighborhood, or excuse me, the limited commercial zone district, the C1A. This zone district is created to allow either
single-family type residential use or limited office and limited retail use. So it gives both opportunities should there be any change in the future that wouldn't prompt a rezoning in the future. It could be used for residential or commercial. Of course, the petitioner can answer as to whether or not that would suit their needs. From a planning standpoint and a zoning standpoint, we felt like it would, but we'll see if that would work for the petitioner. The only issue with that is we have found that if the intent is to sell the property to an owner who's going to use a mortgage to purchase it as a single-family residence, that can create an issue. So that would be the only reason that may not be desirable by the petitioner. But something, food for thought. R3 is perfectly acceptable. We would recommend an R3 rezoning, but also the consideration for a C1A if the petitioner would be amenable to that. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Adcock? Yeah, your turn.
Been sitting down a long time.
I know.
So,
Know how that feels.
This little house is on the corner of West Hawthorne and Benton Street, right beside Rogers Dye, right across the street from First Baptist Church. And several years ago, we sold our agency, insurance agency, which is in the building next door, to Marsh and McLennan. And then we decided they didn't want to buy the Medicare part of that. So we used that very short period of time as the Medicare supplement kind of sales office. And then it's been rented probably for the last year because I didn't realize we had really rezoned it. So anyway, that's where we are today is I need to have it rezoned as residential, which is what it always was. I mean, Shaheen lived there when he was building World Carpets. And also some other, Wayne Neal lived there for like 20, 30 years. So it is a residential building.
Do you understand what he was saying about C1A?
And I don't know that that would really matter, would it?
I think it just
I mean,
gives you
that would
more
be a
options.
plus, would it not?
Give you more options if you
The- Yeah.
but he also said you couldn't get a mortgage if you did that.
If he sold it to a buyer, if he's gonna maintain the property to rent or lease for residential, that wouldn't affect him. That would only affect him if he were going to
Get a mortgage
sell
on it.
to someone who would have to obtain a mortgage.
So, but I mean, that means if it sold at any point in time and they want to get a mortgage on it, then it would have to get rezoned again. So that's the only restriction that the C1A would do.
Correct. The C1, that's a banking issue in the selling of the property, but this would allow them to, if they decide in the future to use it for an office space again, they wouldn't have to come back to rezoning. If someone else was interested in it for a commercial use and purchases it, it wouldn't affect them. In fact, it would be in favor of that, but
Probably be worth more as a C1A than R3 for you when you
But
sell
at
it.
R3, you can still do commercial in it, right? No?
No.
C1A, you can do
Yeah.
either or, but, you know, if he sold it to somebody that went to the bank to get a regular conventional mortgage on it, it's gonna be a problem on C1A. If somebody went to the bank to get a mortgage on it, that's, you know, just a non,
Well, if you own a finance, you don't have to worry
it
about it.
doesn't matter. Yeah, that's right. So,
So,
which one would you prefer?
I probably would like the C1A, because it's got both
Yeah.
there, and I don't think anybody would really want to buy that unless
did
they
you
had
say
to.
you've leased it for the past year?
Yes,
As what, a business?
rental.
As a home rental?
Rental property.
Oh, okay.
I forgot.
That's
I don't know that I ever knew it was rezoned.
You won't tell anybody.
So,
So you're good with C1A?
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I'm not, I'm not.
Tom sat up here, you should know.
That'll buy you something at an auction. Be careful.
It would only matter for a conventional food use only, somebody was buying it to live there as their home.
Right.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I mean, would you want that restriction in it?
And they could always bring it back and get it rezoned for non-conformance if you needed to. Yeah.
Okay. So,
So I think C1A would be.
okay,
Okay,
we can do that.
we can do that.
All right.
Thank you.
Anybody else like
Thank you for
speaking,
your patience tonight.
speaking in favor? Anybody speak in opposition? Very good. That closes that portion. Yeah. Let's go back to the beginning. Everybody still good?
Yeah.
Yeah, when he talks about
We gotta
getting up.
stand for a second.
Okay, y'all ready?
Sorry, I
Yep,
must
let's
stand
get-
for a second.
Okay, let's do the first one. Silva?
Sorry, I'm just stretching my legs.
All right,
That was a simple one.
that was a simple.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Eric makes the motion approved. Steve, Chris seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Second one. Core Scientific. That's is
Well, we
the,
moved the ordinance to two.
Yeah, to the chicken houses.
And you can stay on
okay,
your.
oh,
however
you're
you
gonna
wanna
stay
do
in,
it.
I'm going to the main order, okay. Let's go back to the amendment. Is that what y'all want to do?
So, all right, so the county comes up with an amendment that's more restrictive than what they've got. They don't think it's restrictive enough. Clearly, there's a ton of opposition there, but, you know, there's also people that, you know, on the other side. I think a moratorium to let them figure out and get it right is a prudent thing to do, as long as the moratorium does not financially impact anybody that's party to a contract right now.
It will. If it's a
You
moratorium.
could exempt the moratorium on anybody that's engaged contractually
Already under
right now.
contract.
You could exempt them on on that, I guess. Is that correct, Ethan? Can we do that? Is Robert?
If they're,
Tom's
If you had a
making sense.
moratorium and you specifically, you gave public notice and you exempted certain ones that were already in into a financial obligation, could you do that?
they're on the contract already.
You could.
we need to-
Moratoriums are always difficult, and always challenged. And we, and like, for example, since the December meeting, is my understanding, the number of permits have been issued.
Yeah.
So permits that have already been issued
Would be
are vested rights.
correct. So the moratorium will not apply to those?
It really couldn't.
Right.
So it would really only apply to new permits going,
Correct.
for the and it would have to be for a very limited period of time.
Correct. What would be a limited period of time legally? 90 days or less?
Yeah, I was gonna say 60 days. but-
60 days for it more.
Okay.
Think there's,
So I'd like to put that in the form of a motion, to have a 60-day moratorium that it's only for new applicants, excludes anywhere permits have already been submitted.
Second.
okay, is that all the
Aye.
issues will take care? Okay, that we talked about? Okay, moratorium will take care of all of it.
Moratorium to take care of that,
Okay.
with the exception of the
Chris
ones
makes a
that don't-
motion. Jody seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
In addition to the moratorium, are you making any recommendation with respect to the tightening up of the ordinances?
I would,
leave that to the county commissioners.
Can of worms that we
is there any negative impact if we declined it with the moratorium? They would not have to wait legally, they would have to wait before they came back to do a new ordinance, would they?
No, just like any recommendation, they can, if you, as long as you send it on to them with either a positive recommendation, a recommendation that you change it, or a recommendation that you don't do it, then they can take action at the next meeting.
So they're, what they want to do is more restrictive than what's
Yeah.
there. So if we recommended implementing the new standard along with the moratorium, that's better for these people than what it would be if we did it the other way, right?
It's basically, do you want to leave a 25-foot setback, or do you want a 200-foot setback? Or
I say we
something- or something else?
I say we approve it with the moratorium that, like we mentioned, that excludes, existing.
Existing, the moratorium.
And so it makes it more restrictive, and it sends it back to the commissioners to get it right.
Well, I mean, they would be
That's
entirely,
our
Well, a
recommendation.
lot of the things that they were
they
complaining
can,
about.
they can leave it like it is if they want to. Yeah, so I don't think we need to tell the commissioners.
Isn't really in our lane, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, but
That's
a
what
lot
I'm
of things
saying.
that they were talking about really is not in our lane.
No.
I mean, so we can approve
The
the
moratorium.
moratorium as is, but with recommendation that they go back to the council or the county commissioners and add more restrictions to it based on the objections that were brought up tonight.
I don't think we do need to recommend them to more restrictions. They would leave that to them.
Okay, well,
We-
then
we
just
can ap-
reference back to them. Yeah.
We can approve what they
Approve.
have submitted
That's
along
okay.
with the moratorium, and I think they got the message.
Yeah.
You know, they're gonna have to
Okay.
do it again.
Okay, so
Second? I mean, you're.
first, second, all in favor, what he just worded.
I didn't word it very, you want me to reword it?
Ethan?
Just a recommendation to approve.
To approve
approve.
with a
Of-
moratorium for
with a
60
condition.
days that excludes any currently pending permits. It's just for new permits only, the moratorium.
Okay. Got that?
Well, what happened if they're on the contract
They would,
Well, that, they would move forward.
and they have,
Under contract to purchase the property, you mean?
that's correct. So they would,
I mean, if they don't, I mean, you know, under,
That's not a permit, though. That's just a contract to
Yeah.
purchase.
yeah, but
I mean, you can,
Some-
you can,
somebody's
you can recommend whatever. you
Some-
want.
if it's on the contract.
They can listen to us or not.
approval, I mean, they be under the approved rent.
It's under
Present
contract to
approval.
purchase, they don't have a vested right yet in getting the permit to build the chicken house. So if you want them to be able to do that, if they're under contract to purchase the real estate, you need to say that.
yes.
We need to say that.
I think that's our intent. Yes, good catch.
All right, straight on the record?
Moratorium for 60 days, excluding new permits.
Excluding,
New permits, excluding as well as an approval for the existing language for the UZO text amendment.
excluding the ones with the permit and the ones that are on the contract
For purchase, yes.
to purchase,
Permit,
to close before the 60
Correct.
days.
permit and under contract.
Correct.
Okay. Y'all got that? All right, now we can move on. Core Scientific, that's the data centers.
I have a question on that, the conditions. You remove B?
Yeah,
Yes.
I thought,
Well,
I think if you got HVACs on the roof, it's just gonna be venting upwards.
It was based on the understanding of technology used with the proposed data center versus the Bitcoin, I think as Carl described it, as the petitioner described it. They have a different technology versus some of the others that require having that sort of condition.
So move we approve with the removal of the B condition.
that still doesn't answer the noise decibels.
Well, I mean,
I don't think the noise is a material question, as far back as these are gonna be, even site number 2.
Move we approve.
yep, with B removed.
To be removed.
Jody makes a motion. Chris, you second?
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it with condition B removed. Brittany Cronin, 400 Richardson Road.
Move to be approved.
Second.
Eric seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Solomon Dooney,
Janae.
Go nay.
no nay.
I
Okay.
move we approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, Ethan? Good. Ivan Rangel?
Move to be approved.
Both of them, or which one?
No, it's just
Oh,
Ivan
that's the
Rangel.
figure of it.
Yeah.
Yep, sorry.
Ivan Rangel, that's from R5, it's Franklin Hill Road, the goats, the goat man. Yeah. Okay,
I move to be approved.
Once is enough, Chris.
Octavio makes a motion.
Second.
Chris seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Rhonda Tucker and Emily Tucker.
Move we approve.
Subdivide. Jody makes a motion. Octavio seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Crow Road Holdings.
Move to be approved.
Octavio and then Eric seconds. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Macy Strong.
Move to approve.
Chris and Octavio. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Elder Ramirez,
Move to be approved.
parking condition, what was that?
Well, yeah, that would part, well, I understood, she said she already has some people who wanted to purchase the property. So they're the ones who are gonna have to deal with the parking
Yeah.
issue.
Right, true. True. Okay, so. Motion?
Move to be approved.
Octavio makes a motion. Chris seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Figueroa, number 1. M2
Move to be
R6.
approved, number 1 and number 2.
Okay.
Second and second.
Everybody good with that? Octavio and Chris on both of those. First one, aye. Second one, aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposes? No. Okay, Jason Jackson.
I move that we approve and also remove the condition of number B. I mean, it's just gonna look silly.
Yeah,
I mean,
make it
it's-
similar.
Yeah.
Yep.
Requirement, or we can make a condition that's, I don't see, that's kind of a redundant statement, but, okay. So that was Chris and
Second.
Octavio. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Preferred Tucksters, Tufters.
Move to be approved.
Yeah. Octavio makes a motion to approve. Jody seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Ron Adcock,
Still to C1A.
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 Move we approve.
Second.
Jody seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No, none. So that's all those. So we're done as far as y'all are concerned.
Tonight.
Yeah. Now Jean.
Oh, Lord.
Jean won't let us go.
Oh, gee.
She made us banana pudding, and she wants something for it.
I'm gonna go grab some water really fast. Does anybody need some?
Yeah, thanks, I got.
How many we have?
See if there's any more banana pudding in there.
Want more banana pudding?
I'm kidding, I already got one. I don't need it. I've already stolen seconds. Just
Let me just say, of these 6 plats that I've got, somewhere in the city, somewhere in the county.
I thought I thought you only have 2.
That was long before, that was when Ethan first did his agenda. People come out of the woodworks and deadline hits.
Yeah.
Anyway, they've all been gone over with a fine tooth comb. Every one that you're gonna see either has signatures on it or is up for preliminary approval. This one is up on Bridges Road. If you look on your screens, you'll see I've got it highlighted.
Yeah. Okay.
Across the road, across Bridges Road to the east, he's built a lot of houses. This is,
Kelly Pump.
Kelly Putnam. He's already built a bunch of houses over there. He even got some flag lot approvals, and that's what this is about. He's got 3 lots that are flag lots, which is really the only way he can subdivide this property and get larger acreage tracts is to have a flag and go all the way to the back. So these flag lots that he's looking at, tell me how big they are, Chris. They're pretty large.
3.68,
Yeah, they're
3.8,
all
3.8.
At least 3 acres.
They all have 50-foot entrance.
They all only have 50 feet
Yeah.
over the frontage.
Move.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Ayes have it.
a brand-new road. You guys know where River Birch Parkway is?
Yeah.
off the North Bypass.
It's an extension of it?
Right, they want to extend that road
Oh,
and
yeah,
run
yeah.
into Township Drive, which would take you all
Crossing
the
the
way
school.
between River Birch and Pleasant Drive, across from the new high school. So that's what they're asking you to do now, is to allow them to construct that new road. It's gonna have a 60-foot right-of-way, it's been approved by the city, the design has been approved by the city. They will come back to you eventually with a final plat, once that road is constructed. You'll see that they're gonna do some lots on the south side of that brand-new road.
Yeah.
It's gonna back up to the north bypass, and then they're gonna do a larger lot on the north side of that road. So anyway, you'll see this again, but right now, all they want is your permission to build this road.
So, go.
Okay.
Church?
Oh, yes. Sorry. Do you need a,
Octavio said
oh, second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jody seconds. Octavia first. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it.
let's see what the next one is.
Now, which church?
This is in the city. You guys know that city plats have to code review. It's a
North of
very
town. They
simple
don't-
subdivision. It's got an existing house on it. All they're trying to do is to create a vacant lot so they can build another house.
Oh,
Mr. Amin has been so patient and receptive all night long, just for something simple as this. We would certainly recommend that you approve it.
I don't know, we need to talk about it some.
You can go home now.
Okay, so it's a denial, is that what you're saying?
I'm just here for that banana pudding back there.
You gotta sit up here to get the banana pudding.
So
Okay.
anyway, he's created a vacant lot, he's gonna build a single-family house.
Okay. There's nothing odd about
Problems at all.
it? Okay.
All the signatures are on the plat except Ethan's.
Move approval.
Chris makes a motion.
Second.
Eric seconds.
Second, Eric.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Get your hands off that.
I'm not sure where that came from.
Don't you look at it.
I passed mine. Yeah.
Oh, this is my seconds.
Oh, that's, it. Well, you can have mine. All right.
Getting dizzy.
Glad I sent somebody to feed my dogs.
your dog would be mad, but Brussels dog broke his toe. You've heard the dog break his toe.
This one is another city one, very similar situation. House is already on the property, we want to subdivide and have another house. This is also in the city, everybody signed off on the plat except.
We need houses anyway.
The lot that they're creating meets the minimum lot size required for a single-family dwelling.
Okay.
Vote to be.
Octavia makes a motion. Second?
Second.
Chris seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
This one.
Montoya?
Montoya,
Yeah.
Aldoberto Montoya. This one, I've got another patient. Is he still here? Nick Bulls.
I didn't see Nick.
He was out there at one time. He was operating my TV outside.
He left.
He got tired and
That
left.
was like 2 hours ago.
I don't blame him.
This property is out off of East Bowers Road.
Oh, yeah.
Nick has developed this area. I think he lives out there, and this is some of his family property he's trying to develop. He's subdividing this into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lots. The But one of these lots is a flag lot, the one that's orange. You see the one that's orange? I think that's my color.
Center one.
That's the peach, that's the one that's a flag lot. He is going to have to do stormwater, but he has an old
Dry pond.
pond bed that he might be
Yeah.
able to utilize for stormwater at some point, but just that one flag lot is what we're asking for approval. Everything else is fine. Plat's all been signed off on except for Ethan's signature.
Okay.
He's gonna build a mile house.
He's what?
I got 5 daughters, he said.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what he's doing, he's building houses for his family.
That's good.
Everybody okay with it?
Yep.
Yes.
Motion?
I do,
Octavia makes a motion. Chris seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it.
Last one.
Oh.
This one is in the county. And again, what they're wanting to do, they have an existing house, trying to create a vacant lot. The only way that they can do that with their limited road frontage is to have a flag lot.
Oh, they have an easement?
They've met the minimum lot size for building another single-family dwelling. The plat's been signed off by everybody. It was difficult to get environmental health to sign off on it because they made them jump through a lot of hoops before they could get to this point. I think they're having to do an alternative septic system. But at any rate, everybody's.
Wait, this has an easement?
I'm sorry?
Is this an easement over here?
No, that's a flag to the back lot.
No, I mean, this part.
Oh, the gravel drive?
It's just marked on the survey, it's just a feature.
Yeah, I mean, evidently they're getting to that using somebody else's drive, but anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah,
Need not found, yeah.
okay.
Go.
Okay?
Vasquez?
Luis Vasquez, I believe is the name on it. Luis Angel Vasquez. And Ethan, they're all right there. If you wanna sign them all, plus this one.
Got unnamed road, got
So-
gravel drive.
The fire chief hasn't signed.
Fire chief hasn't signed this one?
Oh, Reed Road, I
Oh,
got
he has the one that Ethan is gonna have. This was, I printed these out before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Get him earlier.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, that wasn't so bad, was it?
car.
Katie?
Huh?
Yeah, I thought you pulled up the truck.
The last one?
Okay.
Yes.
I'll make a motion. Somebody second.
Got a question?
I was just gonna make a comment about the chicken houses earlier, and I never got a chance, so I was being patient.
Well,
It's kinda,
Be on record.
it's,
it's
yeah.
already down the river. Well,
I mean, you can say what you wanna say, but it's already, it won't be for, on part of the record.
it's probably gonna come back again, so
Jody second?
who knows? This chicken seems to
Yeah,
not die.
it was just about the, people were making comments about their value of the property, 34% loss of value or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think the most valuable property would be our kids, and that we take into consideration the location of the chicken houses and the traffic of those chicken trucks, and that they be diverted around any school properties in order to lessen the traffic issues. One known issue being Crow Road and Highway 2.
Go down it every day.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah, he knows.
like, a lot of the things that were brought up just aren't really in our scope. So I think the best thing to do would be to take all of those concerns and take them to the commissioners, because we've approved what was in
Right.
the ordinance tonight, but
Which made it tighter than it is now. But we put a moratorium on new houses and kicked it back to them to, you know.
Yeah, I understand that.
But yeah, these type of things, this is just zoning.
it's up to them to add those kinds of things in there. Those aren't things that we can really do. But I think it's a
My
really valid point.
conversations with them,
Jeez.
and then the
Jeez.
conversations that you have.
3 hours.
Adjourned.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You need to talk to the
Anytime we-
commissioners.
We need to,
Do you,
Eric,
I'm saying,
make a
do you
motion to
ever
adjourn.
talk to the commissioner?
I
Second?
really don't. I mean, we see them.
Second motion to
Yeah,
adjourn.
second.
Oh, motion to
We
adjourn.
don't have any
yes.
authority.
All in favor?
Commissioners.
Aye, aye.
I mean, there were some
I'll
really,
adjourn.
fairly valid concerns. and like you just said, your most valuable